You tune in, that means you're feeling the vibe. The bell rung, you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live. Right now. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. Dope Soul Sporting with the talk. First lady from New York, Brooklyn. All my people, you rocking with the chat. Hit that. The like button would tell me where you at. You know, step from the MBK. Born and raised up MBK. Hey, real lady, where she holding it down. No matter way how you feel, she gon' greet you with a smile.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
What?
Dope Soul.
What?
Your soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Hello, Knick family. Welcome to the Just Knickin' It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and as always, we have a lot to talk about. The Knicks lost to Atlanta last night in the quarterfinals of the Emirates. Hope I got that right. Cup, the NBA in-season tournament. You know, a lot of disappointed fans, including myself. Opportunity to go to Vegas, win the Cup. Whether the Cup is important or not, just to see your team in the spotlight and just see how they will perform in a playoff type atmosphere. And we didn't get that opportunity. A lot of Knicks fans are down on the Knicks. So we'll talk about that. I almost brought my stethoscope and my little medicine bag, for the show tonight. But hopefully we'll get through it. We'll talk about Precious, his return, what that means for the Knicks. Whether or not he should be in the starting lineup. I know that's been on the Knicks fans' mind as well. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Brunson, who doesn't, even though statistically he's doing great, just doesn't look the same to me this season. I don't know if there's an injury they're not talking about. I don't know if it's just him trying to adjust to his teammates. I'm not sure what that's about. We'll talk about that as well. A lot of chat involvement today. So if you're in the chat, a lot of comments, we'll get to your comments today. We'll also open up the phone lines for anybody who wants to call in. All right, let's get to the panel. We got Geoff Klafter from the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports Blog. Ajay the villain, the producer. He's taking care of the chat today. So listen, if your comments aren't highlighted, that's on Ajay. And then we got
keep it clean. Keep them clean.
IKBM Dre from all over. I know him from Blanche Tears. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. How's everybody doing?
Doing pretty good.
Would have been doing a lot better.
Christmas.
Say that again.
Go ahead, John.
I said beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Salute to Dre. I'm so glad to finally get to share the stage with you. That's really cool. And big shout out to Jerrell. Hope he gets to feeling better. He's a little bit under the weather. His kids got him sick or something. So Jerrell, we missing you. We love you, brother. And get well soon, man.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. Jerrell, you know my condition. Be better, feel better. Hopefully the kids feel better, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Let's start right with the Atlanta game. What's your takes on the game? We're going to let Dre go first since he's our guest.
Awesome.
What's your take on the Atlanta game, Dre?
It was a mess from the get-go. Even though we had the lead, we should have been up a lot higher earlier in that game. But they were dominating on the boards early, and it felt like it was only a matter of time until they came back in, because earlier in the game, the way we were defending them, we were basically taking away Trey's options to pass and create. And because he's so great at creating for others, once he starts doing that, everyone gets activated, everyone gets going. It just felt like we didn't do enough in the first half, and then it just spiraled out of control in the third, where we didn't make the necessary adjustments. And Trey said himself that he made the adjustment in terms of how we regarded him. And this is where I want to get on coaching for it, but at the same time, I also understand players have to make themselves be felt. And you have to control what you can control within the parameters of the game. Refs aside, I'll put the game solely and responsible for Tibbs and for Brunson, even though Brunson just wasn't aggressive enough. Like 15 shots in that particular game, that's when you want your All-NBA top 10 caliber type player. If your role players don't have it going like OG and McCall from the corners, if you're not getting production out of Deuce and Campaign, you want your All-NBA player to step up and be a difference maker. But he was tentative, and I want to put some of that on him not being aggressive, and I want to put some of it on the coach not putting him in positions to get going, to see the ball go through the rim, get some easy touches, because he was trying to create too much for himself. And when you have Dyson Daniels over there, I'd say right now he's probably the best on-ball defender in the league right now.
Right.
Going. So it was just a lot that went wrong. There are a lot of correctable things. There are a lot of things that takes chemistry. But there are also some things where that kind of bothered me. It felt like we went against that particular team, and that team has they have like 6 or 7 guys in the rotation that are 6'7" and taller.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that day to send, I know Tibbs is going to play these guys a lot, but we decided to send our 6'8" first round pick to the G League earlier in the day, and he wasn't going to play. And we decided to send basically our most athletic big that we currently have on this roster. And he could have given us spot minutes, because those minutes that they had Precious out there as the lone big, we got annihilated, especially in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't live between those parameters where it's just so hard to overcome not being able to shoot well, because if you're not shooting well, you're not going to get boards because everyone on the other side is just bigger than us.
Right.
It just felt like there could have been certain tweaks in terms of, like, Mitch would answer a lot of our issues for that particular game. When we're not shooting well, he would grab boards, but it felt like Tibbs could have made some better decisions in terms of the rotation, in terms of getting his star player going, because you need your star player going. At some point, once you get him going, it doesn't necessarily matter what type of defense you put on him once he gets going. He just didn't have the confidence. But it's one of 82. It is frustrating seeing Trae Young come to the Garden and start shooting dice at half court. But as Jalen Brunson said, if you don't want that to happen, you better win.
You better win.
And the unfortunate part is this game is nationally televised and was the only game on at that time.
Right.
It doesn't matter if we come back and we play them 3 more times and destroy them the next 3 times. The thing that stays in people's minds is, Trae Young came to the Garden and he dominated, when the last time he played well in the Garden, Reggie Bullock was on my team guarding. Like, the entire roster was different. Matter of fact, the only guy that was on that roster didn't even play, and it was Mitch.
Wow.
There was complete turnover in that time, in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's how fast it goes in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, and I said this to Ajay last night, I was really expecting there to be some sort of schemes to help get Brunson open, more free, better looks. He's really good off the ball as well. Bridges can handle the ball. Just a little more creativity in that regards, as opposed to him just trying to create his shot or create shots for others against Dyson Daniels. Like, I was expecting him to get a little more help, and that just wasn't the case last night.
Yeah, we were walking the ball up, and like you're trying to create on Dyson Daniels with half the shot clock going at that point.
Right. Correct.
And I understand the point of us walking the ball up, because we're basically running an 8-man rotation, so you can't go up and down with them. And you notice by the end of the game they were gassed, trying to go up and down with those guys that went, I think, 10 men deep, with a couple rookies and like 3 or 4 young players in the rotation.
Right.
It became overwhelming. That's why I wanted to like make the rotation expand just a little bit. You don't necessarily have to play Pacom 15 minutes. In my mind, if you bring him in for 8 minutes, that literally gives everyone a blow. But you noticed as the game went down, there were no dead balls. There were no fouls being called. So the players themselves couldn't even get a break at the free throw line to grasp the air. Like, the game was just flying by. And that's when they made their run with the young legs and the athleticism. It just felt like it was overwhelming and daunting.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Geoff?
Well, I'm not near as phased about this as some folks are. I think not going to Las Vegas probably better for this team than having to travel and having to play against Milwaukee and all. I don't think this team needs that. Let's, get ready for Orlando on Sunday. That's a more manageable game with their injuries. You don't have as much wear and tear. It's a lot easier staying on the Eastern Seaboard. I don't care in the least about this Emirates NBA Cup. Like, it makes me no difference. I don't like. It's a bowling trophy as far as I'm concerned. So that part of it doesn't upset me at all. I think in the long run, it probably will benefit the Knicks. This is a team that runs a short rotation. Now we get an extra day of rest. So from that standpoint, I think we're fine. And the other thing I'll say is this: at the end of the day, it's a make or miss league, right? And we shot 29% from 3-point range on 42 attempts. That's the game right there. But last year, I found this interesting. Last year, we were 5-17 in games where we shot the ball poorly from 3, and then this year we're like 3-5. So the defense was actually pretty good for the most part. The thing that I'll say is this. Still a stigma of the Knicks team is we can't put 4 quarters together, right? I think, the third quarter was the third quarter of doom. There's no doubt about that, 34-18. But overall, I think Jalen Johnson shot 8 of 20. The trash can needed 22 shots to get 22 points. I mean, right. Overall, I think that we made those guys work hard. The guys that killed us were their guys off the bench. DeAndre Hunter had a big game, and a couple others. But if you're talking about defensively, you only gave up 108 points. Their top 2 guys really were stifled and struggled for much of the night, despite the nice assist total. But Young does that to everybody. It's not like you just stop Trae Young from getting assists. He's one of the best assist men in the league. So, I don't, I would have liked to have won. I always want to win, but this is not the end of the world. And I just think it's a make or miss league, and we missed, and that did us in. But I'm not overly concerned about this loss either. So I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to like jump off the building or anything over a loss to a pretty good Hawks team and what was a pretty close game for the most part. It's not like they ran us out of the gym. We got to take care of the defensive boards, though. 22 offensive rebounds. They nicked us, right? They out hustled us. They got to every loose ball. That's got to change.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, Geoff. It's not like you're not saying that you don't care that the Knicks lost. You're basically saying a loss is a loss. It doesn't make it more of a loss because it was part of this NBA Cup. Yeah. I got you.
I'm more disappointed it was Trae. It could have been any game. It could have been a preseason game and he's doing this. It could have been a televised scrimmage and he's doing this. It was just it was, and he plays into it. He's a bit of the showman, so he plays into it. And it gets a little bit nauseating, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt about it. IJ?
Well, I wish I could be as positive as you guys. All that a loss is a loss. I don't care about the cup. I don't care about the cup, and a loss is a loss. But I really hate that we lost to that damn team yesterday. I don't like that team. I don't like those guys. I don't like Trae Young. I don't want to lose. I understand sometimes we're going to lose to them, but there's a way. You got to lose with pride. You can't lose and they make you look like kids, right? They're your daddy. This guy on the floor doing all kind of antics, like all kind of nonsense. And these guys, at the end of the day, they all hugging and kissing each other. But listen, man, no. Stay away. Next time, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. I don't want to hear none of that hugging. We all pro, like all that showman nonsense. I don't want to hear none of that stuff. All right? These guys, they got to take that personal. Okay? I want to go into the Knicks locker room. I want the next Hawks games to be circled and highlighted on the calendar so that next time they come in ready for war. I don't want to hear none of that hugging nonsense. You know,
I think we played him on MLK Day. I think we played him on MLK.
War any day.
Yeah.
I don't want none of that hugging and kissing nonsense.
Yeah. You know, for me, we could point to so many things about this game. 22 offensive rebounds, even though they didn't capitalize much off of it, right? 14, they only have 14 second chance points. But that's still extra possessions you have to defend, extra possessions you don't have. You know, if you've played basketball, it's very disheartening when you cannot close out a possession and the team continues to get offensive rebounds, and now you got to play, you know, you got to stay on the, you know, on the defensive end. It's tiring and it's also disheartening. The Knicks also have 15 turnovers, and, you know, you can contribute some of that to Atlanta and their defense, but some of it, in my opinion, was just like careless turnovers, like just not really, you know, not really being focused. 20 fast break points. So the transition defense wasn't great last night. And the Knicks are pretty good in transition defense. I think they're 4th or 5th in the league, but that wasn't the case last night. They gave up 20 transition points. Given, you know, they didn't shoot well. The Knicks didn't shoot well, but they got more shots than the Knicks, right? So that bodes well, you know, for them as well. You know, all of that being said, it was a bad loss for the Knicks. I was definitely disappointed. I personally don't put more weight on this loss because it was part of the it was the quarterfinals of the Emirates Cup. It was a loss, and it was a bad loss, and it doesn't mean more because of that. But then again, I also don't think this is the Knicks ceiling. Like I the sense I'm getting from a lot of Knicks fans is that they're down on the Knicks. Oh, the Knicks are not championship content, as if this is the Knicks ceiling. It's 25 games into the season. This is not the Knicks ceiling now. Now, do I see some concerns that the Knicks going to have to tighten up on? Absolutely. And whether this roster is able to tighten up on it and improve, or whether or not the front office needs to bring in, you know, other players to make it happen, however they do it, there's some things they need to tighten up on. But I'm not looking at this team 25 games in and saying this team right now is at their ceiling. I just don't think so. Anything else about that game before we get into just the Knicks overall and what we're seeing and what we think their ceiling is? And actually, we'll go to some comments too, because I want to try to do the comments after each segment.
I think the barometer of this team goes if OG is consistent or not, basically, in my mind. Every game that OG's shot terribly, I believe we've lost, in ugly fashion. And teams have to pick their poison, when they go against us on a night in and a night out basis. Teams are going to focus in on Brunson and Cat at times and try to. And OG went 1 for 9 from 3 on excellent looks. He wasn't really forcing it, besides one out of the corner where it was late shot clock.
Right.
I'm not blaming OG, by the way, in the chat. I'm not blaming OG. I'm just saying, and half of our losses, he's allowed to play. He's allowed to not have it on any given night, but you got to pick up the slack from elsewhere when he doesn't have it. And in a half of our losses, he just didn't have it. He brings the effort defensively, but it feels like he's the barometer. Because we've won games where Mikal was just playing atrocious.
Right.
I don't think we won very many games when OG doesn't have it going. And I think he'll figure it out. I think he's going to get consistency to his game because he's shooting 33 out the corners. And for the last few years, he's been 40 out the corner. Bank it as 40. So right. I'm not going to completely worry and get out of whack about it. I do think we're missing a little bit of size when we go against certain teams. Yeah. I think two or three of our terrible losses happen when we don't have our shot going. And if we don't have our shot going and we're going against a team with multiple bigs out there on the court at any given time, it gives us issues. You saw it the second half against the Cavs. You saw it against the entire game against the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
When we go against teams that are big and athletic or have multiple wings, and especially off the bench, because we come in with our bench units and it's basically two small guards
Right.
at this point. I think we just need one more guy because unfortunately, while OG tries really hard, he's not a great rebounder. He tries, and Mikal is 3 rebounds a game.
Right.
It's not going to cut it. And
Right.
while Josh is excellent at rebounding, he's still 6'4". So he's not going to be boxing out these bigs when we go against teams that run double big lineups at times.
Right.
And there's just a lot of pressure that we're putting on Cat to get 15 boards a game. I think, and by the time we get to the end of games, you see they have dead legs. This is why we're one of the worst clutch teams in the league. We're like 28th or 29th in clutch efficiency. Because when we get down the stretch, if we're not necessarily going to our bench or subbing guys out, it becomes a drag. We try to offset that by having the slowest pace in the league, but you can't. You can only do but so much walking up the ball
Right.
the entire game.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Great point. Do you think the small lineup, the Knicks' height, I should say, how much of a problem do you think? Well, I guess the point I'm trying to get at is there's some fans who feel that's the problem every single night. I don't see it that way. I do think, to your point, when we play some of these larger lineups, like I definitely saw it against Atlanta last night. I definitely saw that as an issue. Though Orlando was bigger than us, and I thought we kind of held our own there. That's not always the case, though. So I do think there are certain tall lineups that give us issue. What's your thought on going tall just to go tall? Because sometimes, like when people talk about replacing Josh Hart, it seems to me they just want to replace Josh Hart with somebody just because that person is taller.
Me personally, I'm against that notion. I don't think it's that effective or important. I just want to have the optionality on any given night. If something is not working, you can pivot to a big lineup. I don't want that to be our base. When we're in the finals and we win in the championship and it's the last 3-4 minutes of the game, it's going to be Josh Hart out there. It's going to be Cat out there. It's going to be OG. It's going to be Mikal. It's going to be Jalen Brunson. But for the odd night in 1 out of 82, and you want to pivot and you want to have an opportunity to help win, sometimes in games, literally a 4 or 5 minute stretch decides the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
And when you have those instances, you want to have the ability to pivot to that. I'm not saying that you need to rely on it just to go big and, we need to start pressures. That's nonsense. That's just a little bit too much. Just overreact. You don't get Cat to start running double bigs. That defeats the whole purpose of Karl Towns. Karl Towns gives you the optionality because he's so skilled, but the point of getting him in the first place is to start him at the 5.
Right.
I'm not trying to hear all that other stuff. They need what needs to happen is Tibbs needs to tell Mikal to get on the boards, and he's done that with OG. OG wasn't a really, really notable rebounder before he came here, but at times during the playoffs, especially, he was out there getting as many boards as he can. So if it gets prioritized, eventually we're gonna figure it out. I'm not too worried about that. It's just some matchups when we don't have our jump shot going because we usually shoot bigger teams out of their big lineup. But when we don't have it going, you need a pivot, and I don't think we have the pivot available to us right now. And I think that would be nice to have.
Yeah, that's a great point. Ajay, what's your thoughts on that? I know Ajay is you're a proponent of going big, but
Well, it's not really it's not going big just to go big. And I've said this before, like structurally the team, listen, those guys are talented. And like I said, they're gonna win some games, but you're not gonna go too far with the team the way it is structurally. Because there are teams that you have no chance against. Okay, it's not just by having. And I told you that Josh Hart is playing great. He's playing great. He's doing everything he can. Like people say he's the hardest. He really is the hardest team. But having him in the starting lineup put other people out of position. And one thing you're starting to notice also is Mikal Bridges. I don't even know what's his natural position anymore, because when he's checking the twos, they're going right by him. They're faster than him. So he's supposed to be this great defender. Twos are going right by him. Threes are too big and too athletic for him to guard. So he's somewhere between the 2 and the 3. and he's like a little bit lost out there. And that's why he hasn't been playing great defense. Somehow, like he hasn't been able to replicate what he's done a couple of years ago when he was in Phoenix, because he's in between. So he's coming out as a 2. I don't know. Maybe they need to switch and put, Josh Hart, the nominal 2. We really can't, because he's not a shooting guard. And then you have OG at the 4. He's really a 3. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's out of position, and you're gonna win some games because those guys are very talented. But you're not gonna, at that level, when you get to the playoffs, man, you start playing some teams with real 2s, real 3s, real 4 at their spots. You're not gonna win. You're not gonna win too many games. So it's structurally, the team is not constructed right. The players are good, but it's just not at the positions where they need to be. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you have like your 2 best players. Well, not you. I at this point, I don't want to say Cat is not a good defender. He is, but he's a clumsy defender. Like he commits all those fouls. Like, what do we say all the time? Your best
ability is availability.
You're right. Your best ability is availability, right? But if you're sitting on the bench with 5 fouls in the beginning of the 4th quarter, you as valuable to us as Mitch, who's in street clothes. If you're not available, you can't do nothing. And he goes and commit these fouls. Yesterday, he committed more fouls yesterday than they called. Like, he was hip checking all night. If you watched it, you have to be honest. Like, right after they call a moving screen on him, the next play he did the same thing again. They didn't call it. So like you got to figure it out. You have to figure it out.
I'd say, well, based on past years, he's tightened up in terms of the offensive fouls. Like his offensive foul rate is a little bit down,
right?
But he still needs to be a bit more disciplined, because he's letting some of the frustration on the other end where he doesn't get calls. He'll come back down. And he had like 2 fouls last night where it was just straight up a frustration foul, just reaching in because he ain't get the call on the other end. I call those mellow fouls. You remember when Melo never got a call? He come down and whack the hell out of somebody and then start screaming at the refs. So it felt like he just was out of sync, and it felt like he felt overwhelmed because he had 15 boards at halftime, and he had to get 15 boards at halftime. Otherwise, we probably would have been down at half. To be absolutely honest with you, and that's just a lot on him. Like to Ajay's point, and every night you're not going to be faced with these issues of rebounding and having to scale up and have big size.
Right.
But even if we had the size off the bench, in those like nominal minutes where it's like the 12-minute mark from the second quarter to like the 6-minute mark, you're not getting dominated on the glass. Right. You're holding your own. You're holding serve, and then you can come back with your reinforcements or your starters and push the lead forward. I think we're missing that element, and it felt like I know Hutporty isn't ready yet, because sometimes he has defensive lapses and defensive breakdowns. But Tip said himself, I believe, in one game, he was like, sometimes you just need energy. And in that moment against that team, the 2 rookies probably would have given us energy, because that check means a lot more to them than to anyone else on the roster, any of the established guys on this roster. So I felt like at some point, like, you can't just start out games and play Mikal 15 straight minutes. Man. It's just, to me, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
To me, like, you keep starting each half. That's 30 minutes alone, and then you're trying to ask him to come back in the 4th quarter and give you some good minutes down the stretch. It's just a lot you're asking for at this moment. So it feels like we do need, like, in Ajay's point, we do need more size, but it feels like, I don't know, is it size from the center position, or is it size from like a guy that can play the 4/3 like Precious defensively, like a switchable big? Like, I'm wondering what kind of big that you're trying to look for, or you're just waiting for Mitch, and that's just going to scale everybody up naturally. It's going to push guys up in position naturally, I think, right? Is that what you're aiming for with Mitch?
Ajay.
I was speaking to you, Ajay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm kind of double. I'm reading the comments. I'm sorry.
My question was, were you looking for a switchable big like Precious, like an additional one, or do you want like Mitch to come back and you want an actual 5 where he can scale and play.
No,
with Cat
no.
or
Listen,
something.
I have no problem with Cat playing the 5, but I would want a real 4. A real power forward in there. A switchable big. And for all that Josh Hart does, like, he's limited, in his ability to defend. Like, he can't defend real 4s. He can nag, he can nag him a little bit. But once they get in the flow of the game, he's not doing much. They go right by him, they shoot right over him. It's just happened game in and game out. By the same token, on offense, they have a hard time checking him also because of his speed against them. So that's an advantage. But structure, it just doesn't work. Like I said, we're gonna win some games. Those guys are NBA players and NBA for a reason, because they're extremely talented. But do you think I don't think we could win anything with the team the way it's structured?
I don't. I'm having a hard time believing that. Like, I'm having a hard time that the Knicks can't win a championship because they're starting Josh Hart.
No, it's not just. Queen.
I mean, that's
It's not
basically
just
what
starting Josh Hart. It's starting Josh Hart. There's a.
I understand what you're saying.
Domino effect.
I understand. I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't believe it. To Dre's point, though, I would like to have a big coming off the bench for some flexibility, so that when we need to, we can go with 2 bigs. And quite frankly, I forgot what podcast I was listening to. They asked the question, are the Knicks better with 2 bigs, like a Mitch or a Cat? Or are the Knicks better with a 3-4 where they can switch everything?
I'm to IJ's point, I don't think it necessarily is like a starter thing. I think it's a closing thing, and you having the optionality closing. Because if you look around with the contenders around the league, they have multiple different closing lineups. The Celtics have several different closing lineups that aren't traditional. They might bench KP and go out with someone else. Like, I've seen them do it routinely. Like, I've seen the Cavs, when we went against the Cavs, they're coming down the stretch, they had 1 big in. They didn't have 2. They didn't run both of them. Sometimes, some nights, if you watch them play, some nights they close with Jarrett Allen, or some nights they close with Evan Mobley. The optionality, or sometimes they close with both. I think optionality and cohesion and the things that make a title contender work is a little bit different than what it was 10, 15 years ago, where star power just run rampant. If you have cohesion and players that match and fit together, and you can plug in parts like Legos and puzzle pieces, having the optionality is the most important thing to me. And I think history has shown Leon Rose has, around the end of December, he's targeted a guy he brought in, and they've been bench pieces, and they've come in and been impactful, whether it was Derrick Rose or Josh Hart or OG or what have you. And I think we're targeting a specific type of player. I don't know who it is, but if you were to ask me, if I had to guess, it would probably be a switchable big. And it would just be someone that we can plug in. And if we wanted to close the game with them, we could. If we wanted to go downsize with Josh Hart, depending on who we were going against, we could. I think optionality is where the league is headed anyway. It's how many guys that you can fit together that have multiple skill sets that can do multiple things, and they're additive. They don't take away anything from your best players. And I think we're focusing in on, like, probably just adding another piece that could be a piece that helps us win a championship. I understand your concerns, though, IJ, 100%, because when we go into the playoffs and teams are trying to maximize every advantage they have, and they might look at us and be like, okay, we need to go big because this team can't handle us size-wise. Then we need to have a pivot, because if you're out here without a pivot, you're stuck. If you're easily exploitable, you're done. If a team can keep going to one thing over and over, you're done. So I understand where you're going with it, IJ, 100%. And maybe, hopefully, Mitch can be the answer to it, where he can scale guys up, because individually, Cat has been a really good defensive 4. It's just his superpower offensively gets mitigated a little bit when he's at the 4. That's the only difference. But defensively, if you watched him in the Western Conference semis, I think against Jokic, anytime they matched him with even smaller guys, he could guard well. He can move his legs. He can move his feet really well in space. Because if you notice, even when teams try to target him individually, it never really works out how they think it does. But in space, when he's trying to like guard two guys in a drop, that's just not what he's good at. He's just not physically able to do it. I think maybe when Mitch comes back or we acquire another big, you can scale up and you can have the opportunity to have double bigs or two bigs that can be effective at the same time. I just think it's something that we got to wait it out and see. But unfortunately, it's when you have like losses like this, it irks so bad when you see something get exploited over and over and over. But
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
Jeff, any comments?
I think all this Josh Hart slander is a little bit crazy. Like, Josh Hart is not the reason they lost that Atlanta game, like
Nobody's
in
saying
any
that.
way, shape, or form. I mean,
Nobody's saying
I really don't understand that at all. I mean, he was not terrible in any form or fashion. He had like 21, 8, and 6. He was -2, which was the third best of all the starters. So, I mean, I guess if he's going to be the scapegoat, he can be the scapegoat. But I don't think Josh Hart is the reason the Knicks lost that game. I mean, if you want to talk about rebounding, everybody's got to rebound, not just Josh Hart. And Hart's been I think Hart's been our third best player this year. And I don't think it's that particularly close, especially if you're talking about consistency. Anunoby's had his moments where he looks like, he's reached the next level, and then he shoots 1 for 9 from 3 the next night, and a lot of our process was good in that game. We had 27 assists on 40 made field goals. That's really good. I mean, the ball was moving. If you talk about, the Brunson was having a bad night, so some of the other guys took more shots. On paper, that's kind of like what it's designed to do, right? If your star is struggling, you distribute those shots to someone who's doing a little better. Now, obviously, Anunoby had a bad night too, and Bridges wasn't great either. But I mean, that's going to happen some nights too. But it's 25 games, and we're panicking over the last one, right? We're still 15-10 over those 25 games, and I don't think we've come close to playing our best basketball yet. And so, to me, and maybe I'm stupid and I'm just, not seeing it, and that's fine. I'll eat crow. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again, I promise you. But I just think that overall, big picture, we're 15-10. We had a bad game against the Hawks, and you just let it go and you move on to the next one. I mean, it is what I don't think. And here's the other thing, too. Let's remember, the year that the Hawks beat us in the first round of the playoffs, we wiped the floor with them in the regular season. So just because they're performing well now against us doesn't mean that is going to be the same case when it gets to the playoffs, when we have more time to prepare. And, it's 25 games, guys. It's going to be okay.
Jeff, nobody's saying Josh Hart. Like, it's not slander. Like, in fact, you said Josh Hart's our third best player. I think he's been our probably best player and most consistent player. In yesterday's game, he was the highest scorer. He was the best player yesterday because he scored 21 points and I don't know how many rebounds. He had a great game yesterday. Nobody's saying I don't know of any game that Josh Hart cost us so far this season.
I think our starters played them to a stalemate or won a lot of that game. I think our issue was when we went to that bench, it was 6'8" Precious. He didn't have a good game. It was 2 6'1" guards. Like, it's hard to win that way when they go to their bench and they're pulling 6'8", 6'7" guys off their bench. Like, DeAndre Hunter had a field day. And the one thing that I was on Tibbs about that kind of bothered me, they had McCall and Deuce in the game at the same time, and he put McCall on Trey and put Deuce on DeAndre Hunter. And DeAndre Hunter was like, are you serious? DeAndre Hunter didn't even have a counting stat in any other part of the game. He had no assists, no rebounds, no nothing. He was just buckets because he just saw that we kept putting little guards on him. And he was shooting over little guards, and I just didn't understand that point. Like, we already know Deuce is he excels at being on ball, but that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Let's get to some of the chat, and then we can comment on their comments before we move to the next segment. Yeah, no. Paris Duggar, you need to reword that. We're not going to do the only fools. We're not going to do. If you have something you want to say it. So we appreciate the super chat. If you want me to send it back, I'll send it back. We'll read it without putting it up. But we're not slandering people. We're not talking about who's fools, who's not. Yeah, we get it. We get it. But you're going to have to kind of reframe that. So send us another one. You don't have to put any money to it. Just reframe that comment and we will post it. We appreciate the super chat. Moving on.
We could still go with the super chat, kind of reword it a little bit. Can I do that?
As long as you don't put it up there. If you want to read it without that, we can.
Shout out to Pash Duggar for the $5 super chat. So basically, Pash Duggar is saying he feels like Tibbs is burning out guys early in the season with a shortened location, and basically that's the cause of our shooting percentage and rebound and all that stuff. Like basically, guys are low energy because they burnt out so early in the season. They can't get the rebound, all the hustle play and all that stuff. All the 50-50 balls are going. We're losing all that stuff basically because the guys are burnt out. So that's what he's saying.
I'm not saying I disagree with that. But what I'm saying is we have injuries and the fan base is higher on the rookies than Tom Thibodeau is. Brunson plays how many minutes he plays? 34, 35 minutes because he has adequate backup. Karl Towns is playing 35, 36 minutes because he has an adequate backup that the coach trusts. When it comes to Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, where's the adequate backup? Right? Now you got to go to rookies. And as much as I'm in favor of giving the rookies minutes, even if they're not that effective as far as counting stats are, just to shave some minutes off of the starters, kind of buy the starters some minutes into the fourth quarter, Thibodeau is not a fan of that. He's never been a fan of it. That's not his philosophy. That's just not his philosophy. His preference is to play his starters, those he trusts, more minutes than to give minutes to guys he doesn't trust. We don't have to agree with it, but he's been pretty consistent in that. And he's been pretty consistent in next man up. If Brunson is out, Kolek is in the rotation. If Towns is out, Hakordi is in the rotation. So he's been pretty consistent in terms of the next man up philosophy. But in terms of buying his starters minutes, that's just a little bit better. And I can't say I disagree with, you, Paris, in that respect. But you also have to keep in mind in these hotly contested games, you are rolling the dice bringing in rookies. They may give you good minutes. They may not. I think it's a price I would be willing to pay. And if they don't, because you can pull them out, but he just doesn't believe in that. But I do think in that fourth quarter, when we were within 6, I didn't think the Knicks had enough in them to mount a comeback. Even though it was 5 minutes left, they just didn't look like they had enough. And some of it is physical, and I think some of it is mental. And both of them can come from playing a lot of minutes. Anybody else want to comment on that?
I mentioned it earlier. We're one of the worst teams in clutch time. And thankfully, we've blown out a lot of teams, so we haven't had to be put in that position to play a lot of high intensity minutes down the stretch. But like sometimes, even if you have a 3, even if you have like a 3-wing rotation, still like you don't play a guy at 15 straight minutes. Me personally, I just think that's a little bit excessive. You can be a little bit on point with subbing your guys in and out, even if you do have a 3-wing rotation at this current juncture, because we do run with two point guards that try to play at the 2 at times. So I don't hate the idea, but like I wish we would just give Paco spot minutes. Like he doesn't necessarily have to play more than 6. Like literally, if Pacom just played 3 minutes in each half at the beginning of the second quarter, or
Right.
beginning of the second quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, I'll be cool with that.
Right.
Just to buy your guys a couple possessions, because
Yeah. I'm good.
those 6 minutes getting split up is literally just shaving 2 minutes off of Josh Hart, shaving 2 minutes off of Mikal, shaving 2 minutes off of OG, and that's all you need at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to Cody, who says, "What a disappointing game. That paint and rebounding, I don't know." Oof. Well, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about the rebounding. JJ with a two piece. Hawks bench is really damn good. Owls stink, and that's the difference.
That they got a lot of bench help last night for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So shout out to JJ, always rocking with us. We open in the phone line because JJ always call when we open the phone line. He has a lot to say that he don't want to put on the chat. He want to put in the chat when he anyway. NYK Bro 99. Mikal and OG aren't consistent enough. Mikal Bridges with the defense and OG with his shot.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Mikal's Bridges defense has been better as of late than it was earlier in the season. And, it's okay for OG to have some bad shooting nights. I'm not sure what we saw when he was shooting lights out was really something we can count on anyway. He has been struggling of late with, with his shot, but
Yeah. Yesterday was brutal. It was 1 of 9 or 1 of 8 from the 3-point line or something crazy.
We didn't attack Trae Young at all, and that's something I didn't like, because remember we just came off that Pistons game and they were ruthlessly going after Brunson. That entire damn near half the game they're teeing off trying to find Brunson, and at some point they were trying to basically do a scramble drill to get Trae out of the paint. But the times that we did go after him, we drew a foul. Like OG got a foul right at the rim when he sealed really early. Like we didn't do enough to target their weak points, because at points Trae will come up, like we call a screen and bring his man up. Trae will come up and try to blitz the screen and then hustle back to his man, and that the same stuff that we do. But that doesn't deter teams from still attacking Brunson. Like in that little split second of you trying to blitz, there's an opening, there's a crease.
right.
To create an advantage, we just never took advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mentioned that in the recap show earlier today, that we did not, attack the mismatch. Whoever was guarding, Trae Young, we didn't do that enough. We didn't do enough to create advantages.
Honestly, I don't even know who Trae was guarding. He had a free pass on defense. I feel like he wasn't guarding anybody.
Well, some of it at the beginning, I believe he was on Josh Hart, but was he really playing defense at that point? He was just floating around, trying to play passing lanes. But did we actually put him in the actions? At that point, if you're going to put Josh Hart on him, bring Josh Hart and let him run a screen and roll game with Cat. See what happens.
Right.
Yeah, I think we kind of got PTSD because we used to hunt the mismatch too much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to the detriment of our offense. But at points when your jump shot is not going, sometimes you gotta just match up in a low scoring game. At that point, it was a low scoring game,
Right.
relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Shout out to J-Tap, says we can't lose game like this.
But what though? To me, the Hawks aren't a bad team. So that's another thing. The Knicks aren't at their ceiling quite yet. So to me, this up and down that the Knicks are doing is par for the course for where they are. It's frustrating, but it's par for the course. But we're getting frustrated like the Knicks are supposed to beat Atlanta. Like the Knicks are supposed to beat these teams. I think we need to bring our expectations down for the Knicks at this point in the season. Not that we don't want them to win, not that they can't win, but we're oh my God, you lost to who? You lost to them? The Knicks are in trying to find themselves as well. The Knicks are not a well-formed team at this point. So yeah, every game is going to be an adventure.
Basically a revamped entire starting lineup from last year, and basically Cat's been here since training camp. Like he had no summer. He wasn't training with them dudes. He wasn't developing no chemistry. He was like, "Boop, you're a Knick on October the 3rd or whatever it was. Figure it out." And we kind of figured it out with the talent wise, but the smaller, finer details, like even this particular detail, like throughout the season, it hasn't really been Cat that's been the issue on the perimeter for our breakdowns. It's been like OG and Mikal like having breakdowns and miscommunications between the two of them, where they just throwing their hands up like, "Oh, I thought you were going to get them. I'm getting them. What is the protocol here?" And that takes time. Unfortunately, even with great elite defenders, it takes time.
Yeah.
NYK99, it's pathetic that Josh Hart is our second best rebounder at 6'4". East Blue Jew, shout out to East Blue Jew.
Thank goodness.
They let him roll dice on the logo. that
bothered me.
I heard somebody else like, what do you expect them to do? Go out and have a fight? Like somebody else was on Twitter was pretty upset about that as well. Like so what do you want? What do you want to go out there and what, push him down and have like what do you want to do?
But
he wouldn't have done that if Alfred Payton was on the team.
We probably would have lost by 30 if Alfred was on the team. He would have been shaking dice in the third quarter.
Yeah, but yeah. Remember what Elf did to Jay Crowder when Jay Crowder tried to get cute.
Yeah, you hit him like Cam Chancellor. He just took his head off in the corner.
Shout out to JJ. 25 game isn't a tiny sample. Queen. When do we hit the panic button? When do we sound the alarm?
I'm not sure when, and I remember when JJ put that comment up. What we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
No, 25 games isn't a tiny sample size to understand what your concerns are. But 25 games, the team's concerns are. But 25 games is a tiny sample size when you're talking about a team reaching their ceiling. You can't expect the team to reach their ceiling in 25 games. But yes, concerns can be, exposed and brought to the front in a 25 game sample size. But people are down on the Knicks as if this is their ceiling after 25 games. I just disagree.
I agree. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dre. You wanted to say something?
No. I'm saying I agree totally. It's not one of those things where, like, you're trying to figure out the kinks. You're trying to iron out what our identity is. Who we are in December is not going to be who we are in May. Just
correct.
Gotta really back in.
Shout out to Double D says, just look at all our losses have looked very bad, and all our wins have looked very good. So we're up and down, no consistency.
I agree with that.
Right. So we might come out on, when do we play? Saturday and Orlando and blow the roof off the arena. On Sunday.
Is that a home game?
No,
we play in Orlando.
Orlando played the Bucks real tough the other night or last night.
Yeah, but their best players are out. Like, they could play tough, but
talent eventually is going to win out. Jalen Suggs shouldn't get 30 on us. Hopefully, he doesn't get 30 on us.
The alarm bells will sound.
Kerry Cox says the center load is too much for Cat. I don't agree with that. I think he's doing a very good job at center.
Are you talking defensively, Kerry Cox? I mean, I don't see it either.
Yeah, Old Head says Cat can still play the 5 with either Precious or Sims next to him. We have roster flexibility and should use it.
Listen.
Sims?
Listen, no, not Sims. Listen, why are you bringing Cat? Then you should have left Cat in Minnesota. You don't bring Cat in and put somebody next to him. You put him in because you want to play 5 out, or you put him in because you want to create space in the key. You don't then turn around and bring in Sims, of all people, who will offer you nothing on offense other than a dribble handoff. His guy can roam, clog the paint, cut off passing lanes, all kinds of stuff. No, just for a few rebounds? Nah, no. The Knicks have to figure out another way, in my opinion, to help their defense without messing up the offense. with limited players where the opposing team doesn't have to worry about at all. That's my opinion. I'm interested, Jeff, Ajay, Dre, I'm interested in what you guys think about, particularly Sims. Precious, he can give you a little something on the offensive end. They can still roam with him, but probably not as much.
Precious can attack. Like sometimes if you give him space, he can attack that space, and sometimes he can get a dump down pass. He can create a little bit.
Right.
Sims, we already know when he has the ball in his hands. Oh my God, he literally got subbed out of the game like twice in like the last week for putting the ball on the floor and not having a plan for what he's doing with it. So like, no, Sims, no.
But I mean, I think Cat could play next to Precious because,
and he has.
No, but but because Precious could be a 4, like is really a 4. And Sims also, like if Sims had the skills, he would have been, but he doesn't have the skills to be a 4. He has a skill set of just guy who, grab rebounds, trying to block shot, and do the stuff the centers normally do.
He doesn't have the coordination for it. Just
right. So yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. Have we? I know he's played Hawk Porty. Like, has he played Hawk Porty with Cat, like extended period of time? Like, well, I mean,
no. Hawk Porty hasn't played
any extended period of time.
Period.
That's what I was going to say. But have they been on the court at the same time, the two of them?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Outside of when they like had to grab a rebound, like
right.
like under the basket, late game situation, they want to grab a rebound.
All right. Nick Yak said not once do we have the leading rebounder on the floor, where we are 23rd in rebounds with 42, and Houston is first in rebound, is top in rebound with 49.5.
Yeah.
Okay. But you gotta take into account with the rebounding numbers. Even though Houston plays at a crazy slow pace, Houston is an elite rebounding team in tandem with playing a slow pace. But when you play a slow pace, we literally have 7 less possessions than the average NBA team. So that's 7 less shots going up at the rim. So that throws off how many total rebounds. You got to look at it from a rebounding rate percentage, which is
correct.
a little bit more of an indicator.
Percentage,
which is where we're in the middle of the pack as far as that.
Correct. And let's be honest, the Knicks weren't, well, I guess in terms of rebounding percentage last year, the Knicks were a pretty good defensive rebounding percentage team. When you looked at total rebounds last year, the Knicks were like, I don't know, 19, 20. Our offensive rebounds made the Knicks look better as a rebounding team than we actually were. But that being said, our defensive rebounding percentage was better last year than it is this year. I think last year we were 6, and this year we might be at 12 as far as defense. But we're not as bad a defensive rebounding team as you would think. It's just that we don't have the offensive rebounds that we have last year, and quite frankly, we don't need them. I mean, it's a luxury in my opinion. If we get offensive rebounds, fine. That's great. But as efficient as the Knicks are on offense, I don't think offensive rebounds should be a big concern about. Defensive rebounding should be.
I think that there are outlier games where you just get killed on the glass. I believe last night was one of those games. But it does highlight something that we're missing. And when you get into a playoff series, you're going to run into outlier type teams. So you're going to have something to answer for your shortcomings in this current moment. And I think we'll figure it out eventually. It was ugly. It's like, I think it's more of a game that bothers you because it was Atlanta. Like if we would have lost to Orlando in that game, it would have sucked, but it would have been like, okay, move on. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't want to
lose. A healthy Orlando, not whatever iteration of Orlando it is right now. But Atlanta's just.
Shout out to J.I. Says, I'm a big fan of Josh Hart, but he's been getting beat lately with players running right by him. I think we mentioned that earlier. He's been he hasn't been a great wing defender. Ivory 10, shout out to Ivory 10 says, Brunson's the only guy who can dribble and put pressure on the rim and pass. No one else can start the offense. I don't know. I don't fully agree with that. Josh Hart's been doing that. I mean, granted, it's most of it is during fast break, but he's been putting a lot of pressure on when he's coming down, Josh Hart.
You can manufacture looks within an offense from non-traditional playmakers. Like, I don't think we've put Cat in a low block and told him find somebody nearly enough as much as we can do, knowing his skill set. I don't believe we've done that enough. I think we've added some split cut actions, and it's a little bit of the Jokic stuff, but we were doing it from a little bit further out. Yeah,
Queen, we should probably have an entire show dedicated to how they're not using Cat. Like, because he's not being used. Not that he's not being used right, but it's so limited the way he's being used in this offense. It's insane.
Yeah. Part of it is let me put it this way. In the Atlanta game, it was clear that the only one who can create an advantage for us is Brunson. He gets in the key, gets the defense in rotation. Guys can get cleaner looks. You got Dyson Daniels on him. That kind of takes away that option or makes that option harder. Last year we had Randall. At least, with the double team, he can create an advantage of us, right? Somebody else is open. You just have to find him off the double team. They're not really playing, So I would have liked to have seen Cat in the post more, but I wonder, does Cat have an advantage over Okongwu and
yes,
and Capella in the post?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Maybe he does.
There's nobody on that team. Remember, Queen, before the games started, I text you what I tell you. I expect a huge game from Cat because there's nobody on the Atlanta team that could really check him anywhere. In the low post, out on the perimeter, like nowhere. The only way they could guard him is the way he plays, is trying to drive, from the top of the 3-point line, to try to dunk the ball. That's the only way. Like, he lose that advantage, and he kept doing that.
We for all the times we slow the game down, if you're going to play a slow down pace, you might as well give it to the big man in the post here and there. I don't believe. Probably had.
Mix it up.
Yeah, if I had to guess, he maybe had if I had to guess, he had like 2 or 3 post touches the whole game.
Right.
With his skill set, doesn't even make sense.
Dre, I would just spam Brunson Towns pick and roll all game long. Like, if you want to get Dyson Daniels off of him, screen him and make him make a choice. Are they going to try and stay with it, or are they going to switch? I don't know. Like, if I was the coach, and I would just spam Brunson and Towns on the pick and roll, because I don't think there's any good solution to stop it.
We had been doing it a bit, which is why OG had like 9 attempts from 3, because we were running it, but he was missing. So.
But Dre, the problem is we've been doing it a bit. We should be doing that a lot. That's the problem. That should be happening all night.
How do you stop that? I saw the statistic, like, we are the most efficient pick and roll combo in the NBA by a wide margin.
And then they don't do it all night. It's like, I will do this until they figure out how to stop it. If they can't, I'm just going to play the
There's
entire
no figuring out how to stop it. That's the thing. It's not like, how do you, like, just because of the skill sets of both players, I don't think there's a legitimate way to stop it. Like,
Geoff,
it puzzles me. Like, that would be my primary bread and butter if this was my team.
Everybody's just as puzzled that they don't do that consistently.
It should be your go-to play. I remember, not to compare them to Kobe and Shaq, but Phil Jackson would talk all this triangle crap. The last 5 minutes of the game, it was literally Kobe, Shaq, your turn, my turn, pick and roll. Stop it. And teams there was no answer. Like, at some point, if you have an advantage, you move heaven and earth to get this advantage, you might as well use it. Which is why you don't even trade for Cat to put him to start him at the 4. No, but sometimes you use his optionality, yes, but
to put him at the 4.
Yeah, but you don't put these 2 guys together. Like, we're heavily analytically inclined. The entire roster being the way it is straight up analytics and Tibbs liking some of these guys. It's just calling a spade a spade. And There's a reason why damn near the whole team shoots 40% from three. It wasn't a mistake. So you got to leverage these things. You got to leverage the space, and you got to leverage the skill sets. I don't think we were doing it enough. I feel like it's going to get figured out eventually. I think we're just getting by on talent. I think who we are right now is not going to be, like I said before, it's not going to be who we are. Man.
Right.
All right, Queen, I was going to say a couple of more comments, and then we could switch back. If you
Yeah.
want. You
Okay.
want me to run through
Yeah.
them?
Let me write down what I was about to say. Y'all know my condition.
Real quick, NYK Bro 99 says, can I see OG and Mikal show some emotion just once? Shaking my head. East Blue Drew said, doesn't matter if we get calls, we missing fouls. So we'll talk about that. Like, people talk about the officiating or don't want to talk about the officiating. I think there is something to be said about that, but we could probably do that at the end of the show. On the way out. Real quick, Nick P says, is this team better than last year's team? We used all our assets. What do you guys think?
That's a good question. What do you guys think?
Her.
What was our record after 25 games last year?
Not that great.
Not that great.
So
I think this team has a higher ceiling than last year's team.
Absolutely. I think
they're certainly more aesthetically pleasing to watch on the offensive side of the ball.
So this team is more talented. We have better players on this team, but the team, is it better? Remains to be seen.
Right, it remains to be seen. And remember, we're comparing a team that was together, at least the core was together over a few years, to a team that's just been put together and playing together for 25 games.
And the identity of that team was completely different than what it is right now.
Right.
Like we were, the way Atlanta beat us was basically our identity the last few years. It was high usage out of 1 or 2 year stars, destroy teams on the glass, win a possession battle, play decent enough defense, and hopefully you come out with a win.
Right.
Regardless of shooting terribly that night or not.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Parrish Duggar, thank you for the super chat. Precious is the best horrible numbers players ever. And again, Parrish, thank you again. Notice how slow we take the ball out. Exhaustion. So.
All right, Parrish. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Queen. You wrote something down, Queen.
Yeah, so what do you think this team needs to reach a ceiling? Is it just more time? Is it the return of Mitch? Or is it something that's not on the roster right now? Is it schematic changes? Like, what do we need to reach our ceiling? Our ceiling. What do the Knicks need to reach their ceiling? I'm on the team too.
What do they need to reach their season? It's something that fans don't want to hear. Time. Unfortunately, fans don't want to hear it takes time because we had something that we viewed as potentially really good. But, like, man, we acquired a lot of these guys in their prime to be here for a minute that have complementary skill sets intentionally to create a new identity. It's not something that's going to pop up immediately. It's why you're seeing the inconsistency in the first place. It's one night you were world beaters, the other night you're just stuck in the mud trying to figure out how to get these looks. And Tibbs, for as much as I give him crap, Tibbs is, even though it takes him time to completely figure it out, but when we go through things like when Brunson went down last year, I mean, not when Brunson went down, when Randall went down last year and a bunch of other guys and creators, he was straight up borrowing plays from the Warriors. Like, I'm going to just figure out ways to get Brunson looks. I'm just going to spam it over and over and over until I get something. And I think we haven't reached that point of desperation for Tibbs, even though we think he tries to win every single game. Well, he does try to win every single game. We haven't reached the point of his desperation when he's trying to go straight ingenuity and try to figure it out right now. But this could have been a wake-up call for him. So we'll see.
Yeah. Jack?
To me, it just, you don't cook a good gumbo in 20 minutes. right? You got to let all those seasonings soak into the broth, and you got to let those ingredients have time to meld together into a delicious dish. And we're trying to. What we're trying to do now is that the water is boiling, just got boiled, and so then we want to take a whole bowl of soup, and then we're complaining because it doesn't taste very good. Well, let's give it some time. And look, 25 games is enough time, as you said, to identify some of the problems, but we're on about the same track we were last year. Let's not forget that Coach Thibodeau teams tend to play better in the second half of the year. That is a trend that we've seen over multiple years, including the 37-win season. So from that standpoint, I think there's reason to hope, but I think we've got 2 new starters. We've had a bench that's been decimated by injury, and we've been just trying to keep the boat afloat. And so I think that, we have to, realize that we're so focused on the destination because we were so close last year, right? We were within a game of the Eastern Conference Finals, and that's so tantalizing. And then you see that we made all these big splashy moves or whatever, and you're like, all right, well, we're good. We're definitely going to be in that same. Well, the journey is still the journey, right? In February of last year, we were 4-8, and everybody was wondering if we were even going to make the play-in.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, I mean, I think that it's a new roster. I think you've got to give it some time, and we might have to come to the realization that, it took Boston a couple years with their core together to win that championship. So it may be a situation where progression isn't necessarily linear. And I know I'm probably going to get killed for that. And that's not what we want to hear. But, that's the way that things are, in my opinion. And so to me, is it frustrating? Absolutely. Do I want to win every game? Of course I do. Do I want to punch Trae Young in the face for playing dice on the floor? Yes, I do. And as a preacher, I'm not supposed to say that. But all of those things are true. But let's not let our frustration, like, we're not even a third of the way through the regular season. So the journey is, we're still in the middle of it. And so there's going to be, it's like Oregon Trail. You're going to have some folks with dysentery. You're going to lose a wheel on your wagon sometimes. You're going to have all of these things go wrong. And then, and that's what builds you up and makes you stronger. Like, it'd be awesome if we went 82-0 and then 14-0 in the playoffs, and, they'd still, or, 16-0 rather in the playoffs. That'd be amazing. But that's not how seasons work, right? Seasons are, it's going through those difficult times, getting tested in the fires that brings out the pure gold that purifies, so you get the good product at the end. You've got to go through those hard knocks. You've got to go through those growing pains, and that's what this team is experiencing right now, is growing pains. It sounds weird because it's a veteran group, but it's a veteran group that doesn't have a lot of experience together. And so to me, I just think it's going to need more time, and maybe that's a cop-out answer, but look, nobody wants it more than I do. I've been, I've been a fan of this team for a long time, and I want it now, just like everybody else, like instant gratification, but we got to be patient, and that's not easy.
I'm being so honest. Like, the last time I could think of a team that just got put together in short order over the summer that came out extremely hot was like the 08 Celtics.
Yeah,
that's the last
with Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen.
As far as like a nucleus getting put together over the summer, and moving parts, and ironically, Tom Thibodeau was part of that, but his job was just defense. So, and at that point, star power was reigned supreme in the NBA. Synergy didn't necessarily matter as much, even though they did have synergy. It was basically who had the best hired guns at that point in the league. So it's gonna take time. Like Geoff said, like these teams that have been together, the Cavs have had their core four for like 3 years, And you saw where they were lacking in the playoffs the first time we faced them. They just didn't have it. They were soft, right? The Celtics have maintained this identity of being a spacing stretch five team even before they had Kristaps. And it took them a minute. They were like an 8th seed when KD was on the Nets. They faced them in the first round. They were like, it was a 1 versus 8 seed, and they were trying to change their identity to this spacing team at that time. It just takes time, and acquiring pieces that help you reach the best version of that identity. It takes time as well. Like, who we have as the role players next season are not going to be who we have as the role players this season. Or there might be internal growth. There's going to be guys that enter the rotation over time. Like Pakem Dadier might be a full-blown rotational piece next season, and we're probably betting on that.
Right.
That's why we drafted him. So it's one of those things. It takes time, and in order to mold these guys in this identity, this newly found identity, you're just gonna have to take time. Like, you're not gonna get this 19-year-old in here and he's gonna have everything cooking immediately. Unfortunately, the Stars struggle with that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know a lot of us want to win a championship this year, and listen, things can break right, and that can happen. But chances are it's going to take a few years for the Knicks to before they win a championship. And to your point, Dre, the Knicks are assessing this roster as well. What else do we need? Do we need some more things on the bench? What about this starting lineup? Do we need to change it? Is Cat better at the 5? The Knicks move Cat to the 4, they basically saying they made a mistake. But that's a whole other conversation. The point is, this roster will continue to evolve before the Knicks win a championship. What you see now is probably not going to be the team that hosts the trophy. Yeah. Ajay, did you want to comment?
What do we need to reach our ceiling, right? That was the question. Listen, anytime, every team can always add something to the roster to reach their ceiling. Every one of them, including whoever was the champion. Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors in their glory years. Like, you could always add something to your roster to reach, maybe not your ceiling, because you're always trying to reach a higher ceiling, right? You're always trying to reach. So, if we take roster out of the equation, I don't see how. Listen, Leon Rose and Brock Holler, all the boys in the front office, I'm sure they'll figure something out, right? But we don't have much to trade. We don't have a whole lot of trading chips at this point. So we're just gonna have to, figure out what we have and work with what we have. All right. And this is the part where the coaching staff comes in. Like you said, Queen, they're in the background, they're in the lab analyzing this. They're figuring out what's wrong with how they can make this team better.
I don't think we're stuck though, Ajay, because we're not at the second apron. So I think we can make changes in the off season.
I can push back.
Easy.
I can push back on that a little bit, Ajay, because what we gave up for Josh Hart wasn't all that much. What we gave up for Derrick Rose wasn't really all that much. We gave up Dennis Smith Jr., Cam Reddish, and other team source. And we still have, albeit it's not that great of a pick, still have the Washington Wizards protected first, and a host of second rounders that you can patch together for a role player that might fit this identity and get maximized better here than they would be on another team. We've done it multiple times where we acquired a guy that was just languishing or not doing much for another team, and we get him here as a role player, and then we maximize what he does because it fits what we're trying to do. And I think this front office has always targeted particular guys in the middle of the seasons, and then they pull the trigger, albeit sometimes they pull the trigger well before the deadline, in early December, early January.
Yeah, we might get lucky. And you're mentioning the good ones.
Oh, I don't get bad ones, yeah.
Well, I mean, you skipped the Cam Reddish stuff. We had those too, right? So yeah, we might get lucky. Anything can happen. But but I'm saying we don't have the chips to go and make up any major moves. Yeah.
Oh,
no.
But you know what? Don't underestimate that. Remember, there was a time when Boston was willing to trade Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. right?
Allegedly.
Marcus Hart was a big part of their team, and they traded him. So a lot of these players that we think is just entrenched, and they will never be moved. We don't know that. Julius Randle was moved.
Shout out to Dante.
You know what I mean? So if a star player comes along, maybe Bridges will be moved. I'm not saying they will, but what I'm saying is don't think that other than Cat and Brunson, anything is possible as the years go on and it looks like it's not working. They're going to give it enough time, right? But if it looks like it's not working, who says they don't move off of one of those players?
If the first signs of it not working, unfortunately, how it works, the coaches go. That's the first guy to go.
That's going to be first, right? Right.
Then after that, then there's wholesale changes in terms of roster construction,
right?
Some identity stuff. But yeah,
right. I mean, in addition to time, if we can bring in, some more bench scoring, that would be great. I saw an article that one of the Martin brothers is on the
Cody Martin of the Hornets, I believe.
Was it him?
Yeah, the Cody Martin. He makes $8 million this year, $8 million next year.
Yeah. I don't even know if we have enough.
I think we do. The only thing is we probably would have to do it before December the 30th because we can use that RJ exception, which is around $5 million.
Okay.
And you could I'll pray to God if we could throw RJ's exception in a bunch of seconds for that type of player, I would take it in a heartbeat. But I don't know if that's even feasible.
By the way, what's the deal with TJ? TJ Warren's playing in the G League in Westchester Knicks. What's the deal with him?
Okay, I'll explain it for him. His contract won't be his contract. He has his vet minimum would put us over the second apron because he's a 10-year NBA vet. Whereas Landry Shamit's vet minimum puts it where it's snuggled right under the second apron. Like the more years you're in the NBA, the higher your vet minimum becomes. Right. So he's not going to be able. If you wanted to sign him and stay under the second apron, you'd have to do it in February, TJ1 or something like that.
Because it's prorated.
Yeah, at that point, and
or if you could trade Jericho Sims for a second-round pick and not take back any money, that would free up the right. Am I mistaken?
I don't know if he's worth the second.
But I'm just saying theoretically.
No, I think Geoff is saying Jericho Sims and 5 second-round picks for for cash consideration or something.
It could be a highly protected 56 through 60, so it's never going to convey kind of a thing, but just something to where his salary comes off the books without us taking anything back, and that would open up wiggle room to bring in that Vetman contract, I think, for TJ Warren.
Yeah.
They've done weird cap stuff before. They spent $7 million straight up to get the cat trade done. And you're not even going to be able to use that $7 million for another year. That's as much money as you can throw into a trade at any given time.
Yeah. I'm not sure who's out there, but Dre, if I'm hearing you correctly, you would like a 3-4 combo to add to the bench. Geoff, do you have any preference for position?
I kind of want someone who's switchable. 3-4 has versatility because that's something that's kind of lacking with this, especially at those spots. I feel like we're, OG and McCall feels like are playing 40 minutes every night. And, we don't, for one reason or another, we just don't have the body to put into that Tibbs is comfortable with. So if you could get a 3-4 to play, 8 to 10 minutes, just kind of save those guys a little bit more. I think that works wonders because then you're more fresh down the stretch. And then I think you'll see those, those clutch numbers go up. And frankly, we just need Bridges to start hitting the 3 at his career numbers. Like he's like 4 or 5% below his career averages from beyond the arc. He can just up his 3-point percentage to if it could just progress to the mean, I think you see a vast difference in this squad.
I think he started slow for the Nets last year and picked it up to 37. Like he had the same stretch where he was like around 30% the first 18, 19 games, and then as the season progressed, he kept getting it up higher and higher. And I think he's on that trajectory right now. He's hitting above the break threes after missing like all of them the first 10-ish games. So I think he has a track record of doing it. So it'll regress to the mean.
Yeah. For sure. A few more comments before I want to talk. Well, we kind of touched on it. Precious starting. I know that the chat is very high on, on that, but I think we kind of touched on that earlier, correct?
Yeah.
Precious starting.
I'm not going there. Nah, me personally, no.
Yeah. Listen, is it the starting that matters, or does he get enough minutes with
it's not starting. It's enough minutes.
Right. Know? Yeah. And him and Towns, he plays behind Towns when they go small. I've seen that at least in the Detroit game. I don't know if I've seen it since, but he's playing with Towns. It's Towns, Precious, and either McHale or Hart. So
and
he does
Deuce
and
Cam.
Right. So he does get minutes with Towns. Does it matter that it's not starting minutes? Salute, Trav.
How many minutes? How many minutes did he play last night? I don't know.
19.
Only 19. But it's the hamstring, so we don't know.
They're probably ramping him.
Yeah, but
ramping him up.
It's one of those things where it's going to take time, especially with the ramping up part. But I also feel like I don't think we should rush into it. I think we should just give him time to stretch and also the thing that gets lost in the shuffle, we don't actually practice a lot. And this time off, we're going to have 3 days between this game on Sunday, and then we're going to have another few days off after that. They're going to be able to practice a lot of those dual big lineups with him and Precious and get some reps in and try to figure it out. And we'll probably lean even more into it on a given night. And then Tibbs has shown even in past iterations of the team where he'll go to certain lineups to close. Like last year, when we had the full cast, last year he would close games out with Josh Hart, even though he came off the bench, and we put like Dante back on the bench. For example, it might be some lineups where you just want to go dual bigs, and McHale might be on the bench and Josh is on the court at the 2, hypothetically speaking. So,
did you notice in the Toronto game that Brunson was on the bench for defensive substitute? So thought that was fascinating. And then OG, looked like he was going to dribble out that possession. I was like sweating it. And then Karl-Anthony Towns was like, I got this. Don't worry.
Yeah, because I didn't know where that possession was going. I was like, you got a timeout. You could just call one and draw something up.
Right.
But I guess they didn't want to use it. And it turned out for the best. We utilized Cat's best skill set. Like if Cat was at the 4 in that position, in that situation, a smaller defender would have closed out even closer onto him at that point. But because he's at the 5, spaced out 28 feet away, there's just nothing you can do. Just throw it up.
Right. And I think that's what, I get. That's what some don't understand. They don't understand how playing Cat at the 4 changes things for us offensively. And it changes things a lot.
Yeah. They put more mobile guys on him. Like you're basically making him like a shooting specialist at that point, which he's a hell of a shooter because he shoots 40% regardless of the context. But when he was on Minnesota, they basically made him like a corner guy, and he took a ton of corner threes. But that above the break stuff, that warps defenses way more. Like you're used to seeing 4s in the corner. Teams know how to rotate to that. Teams have a hard time rotating to the starting center 28 feet away from the rim from the top of the key. It's just
especially
hard
when you
to
close
comprehend.
out on him and he goes all the way to the cup and gets the and one. I mean, that's one of the things I've seen in his game. Like, he can attack a closeout like nobody's business. He's really good at it, and he's really strong, and he finishes well at the rim. He's got a sweet touch, so it's kind of picking your poison there. He could get 3 either way.
He gets a bad whistle though, man. Just me personally watching the play, some of these guys get whacked and they get the call. He's like flinging his arms and he's just screaming foul. Where's the foul? Nothing. We get a bad whistle in general for our star players.
Yeah, yesterday was horrible.
Oh my god! There was like a 2 or 3 minute stretch. It was just straight up wrestling at that point. They didn't call nothing, and that's
They
when I
hardly
felt like
called
we
any
got
fouls
gas.
all night. I think they called like 25 fouls the entire game. Like, they didn't call anything.
That stretch where they didn't call anything, I think that particularly took like whatever gas we had at that point. When they didn't call anything, we was just going up and down with the physicality. And they had guys coming in and out of the bench, and they were rested, so they had the energy to play up and down. But we were shot by that point.
Yeah, for sure. Any comments while I?
Yeah, I could go over a few of them. Shout
Let
out to
them
these
have
people.
their moments.
Yeah, their moment.
I just said,
Oh no, wait, that was from the last day. Ivory 10 said Knicks need a bench scorer and slasher who can pass.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of have that. Our 2 guards could do that. Deuce and Payne. The problem is they slash and pass. Well, who they passing to like has to be able to do something with the ball. You know, we don't have, but aside from the 2 guys, we don't have tremendous scoring off the bench. That's why those guys, when they come off the bench, you still got to have, at least 2 starters in the lineup with them.
And they're big stuff. Like, they're in the lineup with Bridges, OG, and Towns. Those 2. Like, we got to have some height and some players behind them.
Yeah. Andrew, the nice thing about this core is there is a decent window of time with Cat, Brunson, and OG.
Yeah.
Don't forget McHale around same age. But
listen, Dre, they're not big on McHale right
now. I'm thinking like the long-term goal. I don't think it's going to be this 2 small guards off the bench. Like, they're going to try to get someone else. That's why the Cody Martin thing was even suggested in the first place, because he can be on ball a bit and he can pass in a little bit. And he can create a little bit.
Yeah, part 2 of Andrew's thing. This could still be the best Knicks team in a long time. Don't disagree with that. Once we did say they have a very high ceiling, and we're nowhere near that right now. Nick Yak, some people who said 55, 60 wins are not saying we need a quarter of the season. We need time. A quarter of the season is not enough. So, Nick Yak, I mean, hey, we may go on a 10, 15 game winning streak. You never know.
I don't see what one has to do with the other, though.
We're pushing on a 50
win pace right now. I mean,
that's exactly what you're about to say.
Say that again.
He said we're on a 50-game win pace right now, and we don't even have all our things figured out.
Yeah, it's not like it can't happen. We only played 25 games.
I didn't think it was going to happen last year. It would happen.
Yeah.
It's like 57 games left. That's very achievable. Jabroni Z, Herb Jones would be perfect for the bench to back up Josh. If we get Herb Jones, is he coming off the bench or is Josh coming off the bench? OG and McHale.
They similar players. Josh Hart is just. Herb Jones is taller. The utility guys.
What would you guys do? Would you guys throw Herb Jones in the starting lineup?
I'd have to bring him off the bench because we just don't have a secondary ball handler in the starting lineup. if you take Josh out, because we're not comfortable with McCall at this moment, even though
But why not?
he
Because that's what I
can.
thought he would be when we traded for him.
That's what I thought he would be, but it feels like anytime someone gives him a little bit of ball pressure, he's picking the ball up. You remember that one play where Deuce gave him the ball and then he just threw it back out like a lazy pass? Because that was the time for him to create something. And we brought him here to create something in scenarios like that. He was on the wing, and he just gave the ball back up nonchalantly, and he picked the pass and went for a layup. I think that was one of the turning plays in the game for me, where it's just like, what are you doing right now? But that takes time, confidence, chemistry, all these things. These buzzwords, unfortunately.
I love Herb Jones, by the way. I doubt if we'll be able to get him.
I wouldn't trade him if I were him.
Right.
Old head with a 2-piece. Precious contract is ideal for trading. Part 2, Precious has played for us very well, and I wouldn't want to trade him unless it's a definite upgrade.
The Knicks have a decision to make. You keep him for the rest of the season. You could. Can the Knicks? He's on a one
You have his bird rights still
for 1 year.
Yeah.
He's on a 1-year contract.
Yeah, his bird rights, but he has like a no trade, a de facto trade for a certain amount of time.
They removed the no trade.
Oh, they removed that. Okay, but
yes.
I believe
he'd be traded by December something.
No. He's only traded by January the 15th because we signed him a little bit later. Remember, we signed him.
When they signed him, I remember that the no trade had to be
amended. I believe.
Yeah.
Right. But they can sign him in the off season?
I believe so.
Okay.
At least that's what I was told. So I could just double check in the meantime.
Now here's an idea. Sims and Precious for Dorian Finney-Smith.
I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't know if the Nets trying to help us get any better.
Why does Jersey do that? I don't. Brooklyn, sorry.
They do it if we had 3 or 4 picks to give up.
if we had held back on one of those Mikal Bridges picks, they probably would have been like, "Give us that last pick, we'll do this one."
Yeah, because I like him as a player. He basically is everything we need in terms of like a bench wing.
That would work for us.
Unfortunately, we're in like this bargain bin shopping area, and if we do target a guy, I'm being so honest, we're probably going to use that RJ exception. It feels like it wouldn't shock me if we did a trade the last week of December for something just to get that $5 million exception off with RJ and somebody pick up some money.
But won't that push our total salaries above the apron if we use an exception? Can we do that?
No, I believe it would. It depends on who else we're taking up out of here. Like if we're targeting a guy with like $20 million in salary and you want to throw Precious, Sims, and like the $5 million exception to get in the area, the general vicinity, then I think you can do it. But it's the exception is to take it away.
If we're sending out $5 million without taking a player back, we're like razor thin, like a frog's hair away from the.
I don't know.
I don't think a deal like that works.
I think we'd have to use the other exception that we got later on, but not the RJ one, the $5 million. Even though it would have been nice, but I think that's just going to expire. Not come to think of it, the way you basically put it out for me, it makes sense. Like anything that we do make, the money is gonna have to be razor thin at that point. We will have to match damn near 1-for-1 at that point from whoever it is, or we have to take less back.
Last but not least, JJ says Precious over Hart would likely help the defense a bit, but hurt the offense. I don't know if that's true.
I think it depends on who the opponent is.
Come on, man. You start Precious, and you insert Precious starting lineup with Jalen Brunson, Cat, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. I don't know, man.
Does it? I think it would.
Yeah.
Well,
Because Precious is nowhere the shooter Josh is, at least this season.
yeah, Hart is shooting 40% right now.
He's not somebody. I mean, his passing is okay, but it's not on the level of Josh Hart. He's not giving you transition, transition baskets.
Yeah, but in that starting
Josh was
lineup,
able to use the open space on the floor with his dribble and create shots for other people, and that is not a skill that Precious Achiuwa has. So I think your offense would dip precipitously in that type of a lineup. Now, is it possible that the defense raises up? It's possible. I don't think that it will. I don't think that Precious is that much better a defender than Josh Hart, but so I'm not in favor of moving Achiuwa to the starting lineup. I think, give him the Obi Toppin type minutes, and that's about what he's worth, in my opinion. And I like Precious. I think he's a good player, but very limited offensively. He doesn't catch the ball real well. He doesn't finish the ball real well.
He had a rough game.
I think Precious is going to be traded by trade deadline. I think he's going to be gone.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if we should move off the starting and just talk about how many possessions is a particular lineup getting together. Like, does it matter if Precious starts if he's getting 15 minutes with Towns? Does it matter if it's at the beginning of the game, or does it matter if it's in the middle of the game? Because at the end of the day, Josh Hart is closing the game. He's closing games. You're not closing games with Precious.
Yeah.
But could there be a time when it might be advantageous to close with Precious? Like they're against certain teams, maybe that is a not something that you do on a regular basis, but maybe just matchup dependent. Like Dre was talking about earlier, what team is playing a too big lineup. Maybe you do that, or maybe it's something like we saw the other night. Maybe Josh Hart is on the floor and we're playing a defensive lineup, and Jalen is sitting for offense for defense sub, something like that. I guess that's possible.
Good teams have multiple closing lineups. I've seen throughout the league. Like the good teams, they have. It's not necessarily like they're wholesale changing guys out, but they might have one particular position that they alternate between a bench player that might fit them or suit their needs on a night to night basis. Like I saw the Celtics the other night bench Drew Holiday closing the game.
Wow,
and he's a really good basketball player. So it's just like they had a lineup where they had Kata their center and like another big at the same time, him and like Horford, and they closed the game out with those two, which is. It's on a game-to-game basis, and that's one of the things I do admire about the Celtics coach. Like, he's not afraid to try multiple different coverages and alignments and different things that throw teams off balance. Whereas, what you see is what you get on a night-to-night. You might see the changes before the game, but in the game, not so much defensively anymore.
Yeah. Anything else? That's it for comments?
Oh, you muted, Aj.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, that's it for now. Sorry.
Okay. The last question I have is just about Brunson on the season. Statistically, he's doing well. From the eye test, to me, he seems different. He doesn't seem as quick. His footwork doesn't seem as quick as well. He seems slower. I don't know if he's nursing injuries, particularly the ankle from last game, or is it just he's just trying to figure out how to mesh better with his teammates? What have you all seen from Brunson? Ajay, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, two things, right? And again, something we've discussed here on this show. Because at least I wasn't expecting the MVP caliber season that Jalen Brunson has had in the past. Like we've said that many times, because first of all, it's a completely different team he's playing with. He's getting other guys involved. He has more talent around him, so he's not going to be putting up those numbers. There's no need for him to put up those numbers, or at least he thinks he should be getting the help, right? So he's not going to be as aggressive because he has more talent around him. So that's voluntary. But I do think something is like I don't think anything's physically wrong with him, but something is not. It's not the same aggressiveness that we've seen from Jalen Brunson. I mean, last season, I don't know how many games he just took over the game. We haven't seen that too many times this season. I haven't seen that too many seasons. Too many times this season. Like yesterday's game, it's almost like, Daniels did a good job on him, but it's almost like he gave up. Like he didn't push the issue. Kind of, he was a little less aggressive than he would have normally been. Even against tough defense like that, he would have, try to force the issue, create a foul or try to get an N1 and stuff like that. There weren't too many of that. I don't know. Could it have been because they weren't calling those, the refs? He just, kind of gave up on it, but it just wasn't happening yesterday.
I want to shoot Jalen a little bell. He had the back thing. They didn't even know they're not listing it. He had the back thing and then the ankle thing, like back-to-back games. And I want to shoot him a little bit of bell. I feel like maybe he's not completely 100% right now, but nothing that will put him on the injury report.
Right.
Because, he battles through a lot of things. But remember, in the Raptors game, he turned his ankle with someone in the fans, someone on the front. Mm-hmm. And then the game before that, like, he fell on his back.
Let me see.
Like, he has two things. Oh, is it a phone call?
Yeah, you got a phone call.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know what's going on now. It's not connecting. But you guys go ahead. Let me see what I can do.
I don't know what.
Go ahead.
I kind of agree with Dre. I said in the last couple of games, it kind of feels like his back is bothering him, and that's worrisome. But the other thing is he's kind of got a different role now too, because with the injuries last year, it was just give the ball to Jalen and let him cook. He's down like 4 shots a game, something like that, and his scoring's only down like 4 points. So his assists per game are at an all-time high. And he's shooting the 3 as well as ever.
Call from
Pierre.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Hello, caller, you on the air. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Pierre. I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
How are you, Pierre? Can we all hear him?
Yes, we can.
All right. What you have for us tonight, Pierre?
First off, I'd like to say, hey, crew. I'm a watcher. Usually I watch your repeats. I'm part of the repeat gang.
I appreciate you.
But I love the show. Love the chat. I love everybody. I used to go by Pierre's here. I'm probably familiar around, in the chats around everybody, around our universe. But the reason why I called, right, is that I usually kind of refrain from calling because, we all kind of move off emotions. So I kind of wait until we get to like 20, 25 games before I have an opinion, because the team is going to be the team unless we make a change. My problem is, and I kind of missed some of y'all talk earlier, but my problem is the lack of adjustments that Thibodeau do during the game. Yesterday, I was so pissed off when he threw Sims in the game. Like, it to me felt like he gave up. Like, how you just throw Sims in out of nowhere, right? And it's really his fault because he doesn't cater. And I like Tibbs. Let me just say this. It's not a Tibbs bash. It's just what I see, right? It's like you don't cater to nobody, to the well, let's say a two is here. You only cater to 7 people, right? Maybe 8 if campaign is not hurt, right? But then you throw Sims in You pretend to us that Sims is a star, right? As soon as Achua comes, he doesn't play. Then you put him in yesterday, unprepared, right? Third quarter, when we was going through the worst stretch. Like Sims is gonna come in and do something. Okay? He had Cat out there way too long for him to go ahead and catch the fifth foul. Right? My problem really is, yeah, we have defensive issues, but it's the lack of creativity that Tibbs and the coaching staff give our guys, especially when we go through lapses of not scoring. Right? We look like a G League team yesterday that during that third quarter where things was just looking crazy. He didn't, so when Campaign took that second 3-pointer and you didn't tell me, and then we caught the rebound and then turned it over, why is nobody calling timeout? I mean, on the Knicks. Why is there no timeout so that we can reframe? Let's get a play going so that we can get a score, right? Since everybody's talking about that we're such great scorers, can any of y'all, anyone in the chat, the guys that's on the screen, and again, I apologize, I forgot it. I know your names, I don't want to mess it up, right? Can y'all tell me, right? What is our golden play that we can go out there and get 2 points or 3 points? But where we can get an automatic 2 points or 3 points, a 3-pointer. We don't have that. Sometimes I feel like we're out there guessing. And then we'll go through a spell of just guessing. It was I guess for us, it was a big game, but I would think it would have been a big game for them because they get $1 million or $100,000. It's money, right? So I would think it's a big game. And to me, it's too many times since Tim's been here through his duration. When it's time for big games, he always shrinks, right? He always shrinks like a Frankfurter in the cold. He always shrinks during big games. And then he pats his chest or repats his chest during mediocre games. Hey, we did 50 last year. Okay, oh, great, but where did it leave us? I'm telling you, if things don't change, we're only going to the second round of the playoff, and we're going to fail again.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be a worry wart. I'm just calling it how I see it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
can I ask a question? Can I ask you, Pierre? Can I ask you a question? This is Ajay. So you don't think we can? You don't think we can go to the Brunson Cat pick and roll play every time up the court? You're saying we don't have a set play.
When was the last time you seen it?
No. I know we talked about it. We just mentioned that we don't do it enough, but that's something that's pretty much unstoppable.
Bro, we're losing, right? If you're losing, right, then it's a coach problem then, right? We're losing. Our automatic play is, let's say, like the pick and roll or the pick and pop. Why is it nowhere in the coaching staff saying, all right, let's just get a pick and pop going or a pick and roll going so that we can just get some points on the board, right? Yesterday, Young kept doing the same play over and over and over and over again until because the Knicks was Cat kept dropping. Young's like, you're gonna keep dropping? All right, I'm gonna go a little bit further. Either if he's gonna get this little floater or it's gonna be an ollie. We all see the game. It's the same thing. So why we can't do that? Why are we guessing? Why not do the same pick and roll until they stop? Am I bugging? Hey, AJ, right? Am I bugging?
No. We're listening.
I'll chime in.
Right? What?
It's Dre. I can agree with you to an extent because the way they were guarding Brunson, they were overhelping and overreacting. And we took 43s that night. And that particular look, if they were going to guard us that way the entire time, we probably should have took 63s. Probably would have won just off the straight raw numbers. But I feel like Tibbs has this thing where in the middle, he gets you prepared at the beginning of the games, and we executed that plan to a T to begin the game, which is why Cat had like 4 blocks and 3 steals or something like that. But when you're going against guys that play at a high level, that think the game at a high level, Trae Young is going to figure it out. He always is going to figure it out. And you got to be able to switch up your coverages. You got to be able to change it up. You got to be able to switch. You got to be able to blitz. You got to show. You can't show a star player the same look every single time. and then you're going to get off the hook. It's a reason why they scored 61 in the second half as opposed to like 40, 47 in the first half. Like, you can't just show the same looks, and we just didn't adjust. That was on coaching to me. And I think we didn't adjust to what they were doing defensively, because if you're not getting the jumpers to go in, then you lean on your superstar player, but you got to get your superstar player easy looks to get him comfortable, get him in the groove. And I don't think we did him favors, and that started spiraling where he just lost his confidence.
That word "prepare" with Tibbs to me is overrated, right? You can prepare for anything, but where's the adjustments in your preparation, right? Yo, you're going to tell me he was prepared to throw Sims, and I hate to come back to this, you're going to tell me he was prepared to bring Sims in the third quarter and he didn't play the whole game? That's preparation?
It was a fourth.
You know.
But maybe maybe he felt like he needed. Maybe he felt like for whatever reason he needed to put Sims in. That might have been the time I dozed off.
We know the reason.
The
reason. Okay, you dozed off. The reason why is because Cat caught another foul.
Okay.
Right. So because Cat caught another foul, he had nowhere else to go because Achua was in there. So he had nowhere else to go. Right. So, but my thing is, we're preparing, right? And all of us here are, coaches.
What would you have expected him to do if Precious was already in the game and Cat was in foul trouble? What do you think he should have done?
Not have Huck Porty playing in the G League.
Okay, so you would have played Huck Porty.
This is a big game. We need all our guns. This is a big game, Queen. We need all our guns. But why are they in the G League right now?
But let me ask you this, though.
And then he get himself hurt. Well, getting hurt is neither here nor there. But why are they in the G League and we have a cup game today? These guys want to play for the money too. They make the less money on the team.
Well, they're gonna get. They would have gotten money whether they played or not. They would have gotten money. but what I'm saying is, I don't think it's a stretch if Sims was the one who was in the rotation prior to Precious getting hurt. I don't think it's a stretch that, and listen, I agree with you when it comes to adjustments and changes, particularly in last night's game. There's a few things that I would have liked to have seen different. So I'm not arguing that point. But I'm just saying just a little pushback on Sims because Sims was actually in the rotation prior to Precious coming back. So, you know, if Towns is in foul trouble, I think Sims would have been the best choice over Huck Porty, no?
No, you're absolutely correct. But what I'm saying to that, I have no problem with Sims playing. Play him the way you were playing him before. To me, it's like you just surprise threw him in the third. Why didn't you have him in the game? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like have him, just if it's a couple minutes to keep him going. Now it's like, oh man, I'm in trouble. Put Sims in. But Sims didn't play, and then as soon as he made a mistake, take Sims out. Like what? This is a joke. Yeah. It's a joke, and that's my problem. And that's exactly the only issue I have with the team. The team is going to be the team. Right? They're going to have to gel. It's going to take them a while. I didn't think they were going to go to the stars this first year. But they're going to, things is going to work. But I don't think, man, Tibbs, he's not prepared to coach this type of team. Because remember, we all think the defensive coach. Where's the defense? Now we're an offensive team. Where's the offense that he could, go with this team? It's a problem. It's going to be a problem.
We do have the second
It's going to be
best.
a problem.
We do have the second best offense in the league. But I will say this to your point. There are times when I think the Knicks they do a read and react, offense, right? So they and most teams do. You start off with the pick and roll, but you still have to read the defense. Whatever you start with, you still have to read the defense, right? That's going to tell you, where the openings are. And I think sometimes the Knicks recognition is not always there. In terms of what a team is giving them and what a team is taking away. The Knicks don't have to force it. If they're taking away the paint, you go for the three. They're taking away the three, you go for the paint. They're taking away, Brunson, there should be other options. So I do think the Knicks have to get better with their recognition. And I do agree with you. When things do slow down, maybe they should have a go-to play. And maybe they do. And they're just not executing it.
then isn't that a coaching thing? I know Queenie said you was a coach. If you out there and you watching, or you have your staff come to you and say, "Hey, listen, man, nothing we put out there, they're doing all their own. Let's just call the places that whomever we can get somebody going."
Yeah.
Right? Because yesterday the biggest mismatch out of the whole game yesterday to me was Young and Bridges. And they never abused
same
that.
thing I said. Yep, the same thing. Yeah, listen, I'm not arguing with you.
They had that man just floating around, not playing defense on nobody the whole game.
Game should have been Bridges. You know, like you know how
And
you
the nerve
and
of you
everybody's talking and
to hide Trey on Bridges too. You know?
Exactly. That's like
The nerve.
So to me, the talk would have been, "Yo, Bridges, you're gonna have a big game today because it's gonna be you and Young, and you know Young don't like playing deep. You're gonna be able to get your thing." You know, that would have been the conversation. If I was a player, that's the conversation I think we would have been having. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be your day-to-day Bridge. You know what I'm saying? This is what we're gonna blah. Young don't like, but they never did it. It's like they just. It seems to me they feel like it's too easy. Let's do it another way. Like I don't understand. Like we playing to win. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's like, oh, that's too easy. Let's try it another way to try to win. Come on now. Sometimes it's a little bit ridiculous to me. Like, let's go out there and play ball. Let's play the right way. You know what I'm saying? That third quarter really upset me. Like, I know it upset all of us, but it really upset me because we were looking like children, looking like kids out there, you know. Yeah. And no one wanted to just call time out and let's just regroup.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I really had on my chest. I don't want to hold the line up. Thank you for taking my call. I kind of like this. I think I'm going to call more often.
Yeah, please do.
Thanks for calling, man.
That was a great call.
Very good.
Good call. Very good call.
Yeah. Any comments on what he was saying before we get back to Brunson and get out of here?
His beefs are pretty justified to me.
He's not wrong. He ain't wrong.
It's intriguing seeing other teams around the league when like they're struggling to get stops. They might pop out a zone. I don't think we've ever in the 5 years Tibbs has been here been like, we're gonna try a zone. And to Tibbs' mind, that's just admitting defeat at that point. we just gonna run the same coverage. If they beat it, they beat it at that point.
Right. I mean, I haven't seen a zone, but I've seen him use towns different in terms of sometimes he's in drop, sometimes, he's
out blitzing.
Yeah, he's out blitzing.
But when he has his other bigs out there, or like unnecessarily, like if he decides that night we're just gonna play drop, he's not deviating from it. Yeah. And he didn't last night. When he should have just pivoted at that point. Because he like Trey figured it out. It was by no mistake like he got going, and midway through the third quarter they were humming offensively. Right. At that point, you just can't show him the same look, and we just kept showing him the same look.
And Tibbs has said that before. He said that before. He said, with these good players, you can't give them the same look. Okay.
well, Tibbs has also said the game tells you what to do, and game didn't tell him much, I guess.
Well, I mean, you're right. It goes both ways. I think he was referring to the players.
Yeah, he was referring to the players, but it's ironic when you watching the game as a coach. As a coach, sometimes you got to give your players blinders.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to be like, yo, I know you got all these options. Just focus on this, and this.
Right.
Everything else, throw it out the window.
Yeah. Salute, Mega. Any last comments on Brunson? Geoff, does he look different than last year or not? Not really.
I mean, I think he's a little banged up, but he's playing pretty well for the most part. I mean, I don't know. He was disappointing, I guess, against the Hawks. So that's the most recent memory. So that kind of sours it a little bit, I guess. But I mean, he's had a better start to the season this year than he had last year from a statistical standpoint. So even with scoring average, I mean, his scoring average really peaked in the second half of the year after Julius went down, but he's actually scoring at a higher rate now than he was at this point last year. So, I mean, I think we expect him to be Superman and never see kryptonite, I guess, because he's our guy. But
Yeah.
even the best have a bad game sometimes.
I want to respond to someone in the chat saying he's not a playmaker.
We definitely.
Brunson's like putting out like 10 assists a game for like the last 15 or so games.
Right.
Like we gotta tell. Like he's showing me things I didn't know he had in his bag passing wise.
Right.
So, but
yeah,
I think to answer the question about like is Brunson the same, or I mentioned it earlier. Like he's a little bit dinged up right now, but I don't think he feels the need to like grab the bull by the horns necessarily with all his talent on the team. Where back then, especially not at the beginning of the year, but around January, even when we did have a full cast, he was just like, I'm just gonna get my 30 this night, and that's what it's gonna be. I think he's like trying to ease into games, and at some point, sometimes the thing that we miss from Randall that we took for granted, Randall will come in every first quarter and try to set the tone and try to get 10, 11, 12 points.
Yeah.
And I feel like we try to do this thing where we're trying to be this equal opportunity team and everybody gets the ball, and then we look up at halftime, everyone has like 11 points. Sometimes Brunson needs to come out and be like, I'm setting the tone for this night. This is what the All-NBA player feels like doing right now. And then after that, you figure out what you're doing and coast from there. But I feel like he hasn't felt the need to put his signature stamp on the game where he feels like I'm going to take over these next, 5 to 6 minutes. And it's my time. That's usually what stars do. If you're a top 10-ish type player, you see them exhibit these things on a every other game basis. They just decide to exert their dominance. I don't feel like he's doing that right now.
I think you said it the way I was thinking it and couldn't express it. I think he is trying to pass the ball and be equal opportunity, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think there are times when you just have to take over, whether that's setting the tone at the middle of in the beginning of the game, whether that's we need 4 baskets right now, or we need 2-3 baskets right now. I just don't see that assertion, and when he does, I just don't see the quick feet like he had before. It's just a little slower. Yes.
It may not be that it's a little slower. It's that teams have adjusted. Number one, teams are not going for the fakes, not nearly as much.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, teams are straight up putting 6'7", 6'6" guys off the rip. They're not even conceding. It's why OG gets a lot of dunks, because they be putting these little guards on him the majority of the time. Like they be trying to cross match because they're so afraid of Brunson getting going. They put these bigger wings on him. So these bigger wings don't necessarily have to go for his fakes to block his shot. They could just stand still and put their hands up. So and that also, like, his game is based on deception,
right,
and hesitation and herky jerky stuff.
Right.
And when the book is out, he's still extremely effective because he's just that level caliber of scorer, but he doesn't have the advantage to just bully his opponent if they're putting a 6'2" guard on him or something like that. Like when we went against Houston, what's his name? Van Vliet was not playing that man.
Mm-hmm.
Van Vliet was not guarding him, because if he was, he probably would have had 40.
Mm-hmm.
Teams know, and the way we counter teams putting their typical big guard on them is we attack their smaller guard. Atlanta has, besides Trey, and they hit Trey extremely well. Besides Trey, everyone else, as far as the guards and wings on that team, is 6'7" or better. Damn near all of them. So it's harder to attack in that.
Yeah, I do hear you on that in terms of how he's doing it and how he's looking. I still would like to see him be more assertive at times. Yeah, but I guess he's still trying to find his balance. I'm not surprised about the playmaking, because I saw it when he played with FIBA and he played with better competition. Some of the passes he was making, I was like,
And then you can realize, like, it's funny, like the talent matters, because that pass against the Raptors where he hit Cat underneath the basket and it was a bounce pass, any center we had before Cat, that's going clean out of bounds. That's skimming like a rock on the river. Right. Like he caught that. Cat caught that. I don't know how he caught that, but You
He
can't
has
attempt
great
those
hands.
things. You can't attempt that with. You couldn't attempt that with Noel. Can't attempt that with Mitch. Can't attempt that with Precious. You can't attempt that with Sims.
Nope.
Just no.
Nope. Ajay, Jeff, both of you commented already?
I didn't say anything yet, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Ajay.
No, you go ahead, Jeff.
I think Ajay commented
So
on.
the thing about it that I think is kind of funny is that, and it's small sample size, but in the last 3 games, Brunson has 29 assists, and we're 1 and 2. In the previous 2 games before that, he had a grand total of 9 assists, so we won both games. So, I mean, it's, I don't think those stats mean anything in the long run. I'm not saying he needs to take more shots or less shots, but I think that the idea that he's not a playmaker is false. I think that he gets this team running, and I think one of the things that he's adjusting to is figuring out when do I call my own number and when do I not, because that's something that he didn't have to worry about last year. Last year it was call my number every time because we don't have anybody else.
Right.
And now he's got options, and you know, the defenses are focused on him more. So get the guys. Brunson's a high IQ player. He always wants to get the highest percentage shot. And last year, keeping the ball in his hands was always the best play. This year, you've got a lot of guys. I mean, this is a team that's shooting 40% from 3. Well, that means you have a lot of options when you're doing your razzle dazzle. And you know, I'll agree with you. The footwork seems a little bit slow or not quite as good as or crisp for whatever reason. But yeah, I'm not worried about Brunson. I think he's a playmaker, and I think he's playing just fine.
Yeah. I mean, as far as that's concerned, basically you just need to read what the defense. Just read. You know, if they're taking away, if they're staying home, then you have a one-on-one matchup. You know, if they're doubling, somebody is open. You know, just read the game. You know, so I'm not worried about that. I mean, aesthetically, it's better. You know, when he's passing the ball and he's passing guys into shots. You know, I get it, but just and somebody said it in the chat. Everybody wants to see Brunson pass, and he's passing into Mikal and OG, who's bricking. You know, sometimes when guys ain't hitting, you ain't getting it. You ain't hitting it. You ain't getting it.
But even then, like in tandem, but I'd say the 2 leaders on the team are probably Brunson and Tibbs, to be absolutely honest. In terms of on the court, off the court, at some point you got to realize, yo, he ain't got it tonight. You might have to revert to that heliocentric Brunson bag to get it done tonight, because there's always, if you're viewed as a top 10 player, you have a switch where it's okay. I have to take over a game to win tonight, and he did it earlier in the season. I believe he dropped like 36 or something, but I don't think he got in a rhythm. He got comfortable or decided to take over last night when we should have.
Reese, I ain't gonna lie. I was thinking about this. I'm not saying he shouldn't pass the ball. I like the passing. I like the recognition. I love the way he's passing guys into good looks. But there are some times when I do feel like this is a too much of a equal opportunity offense, and it's time for Brunson to put the pressure on.
I feel like some of it happened to do with Mikal starting slow, so he felt like a pressure. Okay, I need to get my boy going because he's in a new situation on a new team. He's not playing how he was. Let me see if I can get him some extra touches. But at some point, you got to be like, it's my time. Move out the way.
Yeah, my boy. Forget his boy.
Yeah.
We don't care about his boy getting acclimated, man. We need dubs. That's you and your boy's problem. What's that got to do with us?
He shouldn't even need to be acclimated. He played in Brooklyn. He ain't moved nowhere.
Yeah,
The same apartment, same house. He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right, let's get to the last comments and get out of here.
All right, we got Reese Anderson says he needs to play his game and stop trying to be Chris Paul or Halliburton. Exactly what we're talking about. Be Brunson. And stop, if your guys don't got it, shoot the ball. I ain't passing nothing.
OG wouldn't have even got to one for none. No, I'm kidding. He would have got 1 to 5, and now that's it. I can't.
Reese also said problem with Brunson last game, he wasn't the attacking person we all know and love. He deferred the ball. Well, yeah, pretty much what we're saying. Two shoot breaks. And listen, I don't know. Somehow the points per game, the averages work out and not look as bad. But when I'm watching the game, man, I just see Mikal Bridges break all day, all night, man. But then when you look at the stats,
three-point shooting at Jay, he was 8 of 12 inside the arc and in the mid-range against Atlanta. What you're remembering is the 1 for 5 from three. I mean, he was 9 of 17 from the field, which isn't an inefficient game.
Right.
It
looks pretty good, right?
At all.
Yeah.
So, but he was really good inside the arc.
Yeah.
He's just Stevie Wonder out there once he gets behind it.
Yeah, and OG was worse. I think OG was 1 of 9 yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, OG hasn't hit a mid-range jumper in 8 games. You know?
Wow.
He hasn't hit a.
Hey, but you know what? And when he's about to take that mid-range, I'm not. No, you too close. Step back a little bit. You want him to take the 3 because he's more efficient at it. Kerry Cox says Bridges is not the best fit we like we imagined. I'm sorry. Bridges is not the best fit like we imagined. Not yet. It's only been 25 games. Listen, it's gonna be 52 games. I'll be like, it's only been 52 games.
It's only one season.
Only one season.
It's only one round in the playoffs.
I hope we're not having this same conversation. I hope we're not having this same conversation.
Nick Yak, shout out to Nick Yak, says, does he realize we're shooting 49% and 40% with a boatload of assists? It's only the defense you didn't mention. So he said that when we had the caller on, and yeah, that's a good point. Is Brunson hurt because he's not playing the same? Ruben Nunez said. We're speculating. We think there's something wrong with the back a little bit. The ankle tweaked the other day when he was playing the Raptors. So possible there's something going on there. Rick James, assists are stats. He doesn't get players to spot like CP3 and LeBron does. You impressed with 7.5%? I mean 7.5 assists per game.
Yeah, because he's not CP3 and he's not LeBron.
That's a lot. That is a lot for Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. Like we want him to be something he's not. I mean, and he can play make. I mean, he's showing us that this season. He's had multiple 10 assist games, but he's not CP3 and he's not LeBron.
Don't nobody ask Dame to get 12 assists a night, man. Dame get 7, if that 7.5.
Right.
But and he has the ball damn near all game too.
Right. Exactly.
He's a scoring guard. What do you want to do?
Right.
Shout out to Jay Chosen One, says good evening, blessings. We seem to have a major issue with taller, athletic, speedy team. Yep.
It's fair.
It's fair.
It's even more evident as the game goes along and we start losing the edge because we're playing so many minutes.
Right.
Because we have 4 like the top 5 guys in minutes or something like that through. Right. One of those numbers, it's a lot. Right. It's a lot that we're asking of them.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to be a little bit more judicious with these minutes that we're doling out on a night to night.
Yeah. And we talked about it. You may have to play some of these young guys and just live with the results.
Yeah. Rick James, we have one creator, and it's a problem.
And I thought Mikal Bridges would be a secondary creator. I thought maybe
he showed spurts of it. Like the other game, one of these games, he had like 6 assists in the first half, making decent looks.
He did. And then I also thought that on the mismatches, Cat would be in the post. And like on the pick and rolls, Cat would, if he's matched up with a smaller guy, he would be in the post and they would have to double team and that would create advantages for us. I'm not seeing a lot of that at all.
David Elbrias said, you know why I know our guys are tired? Look at the free throws of the past 4 games.
But they missing in the first quarter,
Oh,
though.
my God. Like, what are we shooting 50% from the line lately. I don't know what's going on with that. We complain about that, because, we watching the game. I'm texting Queen. I'm like, Queen, like, we can't make free throws. Like, what the hell's going on with that?
I said, we number 1 in the league. He said, still?
Still? Yeah, because we missed so many free throws the last couple of games.
The bad free throw flu came with Precious. As soon as he came and missed them first 2 free throws he took, everybody after that been shooting.
Everybody
50%.
forgot how to shoot him because of Precious.
He came back and took the 2
it's
first
all
free
Precious'
throws.
fault. Trey said so.
So yeah, that's it, Queen. Queen, there's a couple of things. Is that it, or is there anything we want to?
No, I don't have anything.
There are a couple of things I want to kind of gripe about. Is that so somebody mentioned in the chat, right? Very early on in the chat, and I didn't highlight it because I didn't want to go off topic. Somebody said just I guess Shaq on the TNT mid going get on. Why would you even watch that? Like, as a Knicks fan, I don't even know why Knicks fans torture themselves watching these clowns. They don't like the team. They're not going to say anything good about the team. So why do you even waste your time watching that?
It's not even all of them. It's just Shaq. Shaq doesn't like Knicks.
It's just Shaq, and Kenny doesn't defend us either. You figure he would, but Charles Barkley of all people, kind of like what the Knicks are doing,
right? And when the Knicks are playing well, Shaq is mad quiet. He doesn't even comment on the segment.
Yeah, he mad. He mad and quiet. He mad and mad quiet.
You hear him just breathing real hard and just
like
in the background.
Yeah, you could see the steam coming off his head, like when the Knicks are playing well. Like he just can't stand it.
But when they get beat like Atlanta, oh my God, he has
he's got all this, So, and a little special shout out to NBA.com, the website, for their headlines, right? When you go to their headlines, right? Thunder advance to Vegas. That's one headline. Bucks advance to the semis. That's another headline. Rockets advance to the semis, right? What do you notice? You have no idea. They don't even mention the losing team. But the Knicks, the Hawks eliminate the Knicks. That's the headline for the Knicks. Like, they make sure they know that the Hawks beat the Knicks. The other teams, you have no idea who OKC played, who none of those. They advanced. Congratulations to them. But this one, there's always a little extra spice when the Knicks lose. Like, everybody. That we talk about NBA.com. You figure they'd want to promote every team, right?
Right.
But no, they have to say the Hawks eliminate the Knicks to bring that,
Yeah. I've noticed that. Like, when I watch the highlights in the morning. But the Knicks could win in the highlights of the other team.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
The one good move there, the one good dunk they had on Precious, it makes the top 10, right? And there's another
league pass.
There's an.
I get, man. I'm telling you, I hate it when we're on national TV because I have to watch the national broadcast. But I love getting I have to mute the sound on any national broadcast. I just have to. I can't handle it. But I love listening to Breen
and Monica and them on the radio and
Well, I've tried that. I've tried that, but it's out of sync, obviously, because the video stream is it's out of sync.
It's a little out of sync. Okay.
One more little thing I want to say, right? Yesterday's game, the refs they did a horrendous job. They did not call the game fairly for the Knicks, right? But then on the shows today, everybody's like, "Oh well, it wasn't egregious because the Hawks and the Knicks shot almost the same amount of free throws." Queen, I complain about useless, idiotic stats all the time. That's one of them, right? So if the Hawks committed 60 fouls and they only called 30 of them, That means they only call 50% of the fouls the Hawks made. But if the Knicks committed 40 fouls, they called 30 of them. They penalize the Knicks 75% of the time. At the end of the game, it's 30 for 30, right? But it's not the same percentage to call. They let the Hawks get away with more. So to compare 30 for 30 it's a stupid comparison. I don't know why people do that. You have to watch the game to see, okay, the Hawks got more aggressive. They got away with more. The Knicks didn't get away with as much. At the end of the game, everybody shot 30 free throws, but that means nothing if you didn't watch the game, if you don't understand that the Hawks, they were more aggressive. They let them get away with more. So another useless stats that everybody's throwing around like it means something. It means nothing.
Right.
I do think that's a general rule, though. I think the favorable whistle tends to go to the aggressor. Like I've seen it for years. I think that the more aggressive team, and I've seen it as a coach. Like my team's been up 15 points at the half, and then the other team comes out in a full court press, and they're hacking and whacking and slapping and beating the fire out of you all the way up the court. But they're just being aggressive, and they're not going to call every slap, hit, and whack. And you got to get your guys focused and say, "Hey, you're going to have to overcome that." But the Knicks have always
listen,
Jeff,
I don't.
So you just got to expect it and move on. Like,
I don't disagree, and you're right that it's probably the rule, except when the Knicks is the aggressor, then all of a sudden they want to call all the fouls. When the Knicks are aggressive, all of a sudden the refs they blowing everything. Like they have no problem, slowing the game down.
I thought hand check was gone. Brunson been getting hand checked the last 2.5 years.
And Cat gets fouled when he's going on those drives.
And the thing is, he drives with intent. Like he's beelining straight to the rim. He's not deviating. And if you take him off his path, obviously he's going to throw up an awkward shot, but he's not going to call it.
And if they do call it, it's on the floor, so no free throw.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Let me just shout out the chat, and then we'll get last words, and then we out of here. If you haven't already, hit the like button. We had 99 watching now. We've had over 100, and we got 54 likes. So if you haven't already, hit the like button. Jay Chosen One, appreciate you. Rick James, Reese Anderson, Knicks 100 a GM. Anna Grill, Nick Yak, always rocking with us. Sherman was in the building. JJ, Keith Turner, Anna Grill, David L. Bayer, Rebuild, NYK, Trav B. Ryan was in the house. I appreciate you all. Paris Duggar, appreciate you. Appreciate the super chats as well. Kerry Cox, Sherman was in the building. Appreciate you. Ivory 10, appreciate you as well. David Smith, Wilson Ding, appreciate you. Mike Boy, appreciate you as well. David Smith, Andrew K, D Public Enemy #1. It's been a minute. Kerry Cox, Keith Turner. I may say some of y'all names twice. I know my condition, and I might forget to say somebody. Still a lot of love. D Ross, appreciate you. Still Knick fans. You were gonna say something, Ajay?
No, I was gonna say Knicks 100 GM popped up.
Yeah, old head.
Johnny
Appreciate you, D Grant, Nima Sekhorn, Nick P. Appreciate you, and then Dre. Appreciate you, Dre, for stopping by,
hanging out with us, man.
No problem.
Listen, that link that you received is a forever link.
Okay, so I could just pop in whenever you need me, whenever I can make time. Okay.
Whenever you can make time. If you want to come every week, you can come every week. Or we come whenever whenever you can. We definitely appreciate your contributions, and like Ajay and Geoff and Jerrell when he's here, raising the level of the show.
Yeah, made me real comfortable here. Easy to talk basketball with you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome, man.
Any last words?
And shout out to the chat. Dre, I don't know if you want to plug, Jay, you want to plug your
I'm good.
You good?
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. You can. It's cool.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. All right.
Yeah, shout out to the chat, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the caller Pierre who called.
Yes.
Who took up all the time, and JJ didn't have to call because Pierre took it all.
He was too bad to call. JJ said he would have been yelling. So
Listen,
But that was a tremendous call, though. Thanks for the call.
it definitely was. I was listening to Sim, Nothing But Knicks, post-game show last night with Sim, and JJ called in. I almost got my stethoscope and medicine bag. Oh my God.
I heard it. I was listening to it too.
It's like JJ got it bad right now. The Knicks are terrible. Atlanta is better. I was like, all right. I mean, it was a disappointing loss, but JJ, man, are you feeling a little better today, JJ, if you're still in the chat? Or are you still got some ice on your forehead?
I think the Soto press conference got his blood pressure a little bit back down.
Say that again?
The Soto press conference got his blood pressure a little bit back down.
Right. Geoff, Ajay, any last words?
Dre, thanks for coming on the show, man. Excellent insight. I love listening to you, bro. You got a great basketball mind, and I'm glad you chose to share it with us, man. I appreciate that a lot. Ajay, keep doing your thing. And Queen, the hostess with the mostest, as always. We appreciate you. There's no show without you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And Dre, come back anytime.
I'm welcomed. I feel welcomed.
Yeah, I need you guys to do me a favor. The next time we come on, I'll have a link that you can press. But in order to stream to Facebook, you have to have 100 subscribers on your page. So the Dope Soul Sports Talk Facebook page, I think, has like 77 subscribers. So if you are on Facebook, search for that group, subscribe so I can get back to streaming to Facebook, which I used to do. But the next time I will put the link in the description, and then I'll also put the link in the chat and make it easier to do it. But for those who don't mind a little work, if you go to Facebook, Dope Soul Sports Talk, subscribe to that so I can start back streaming to Facebook. Pamela Willis used to listen to us on Facebook. Sorry, sis. You got to have 100 subscribers in order to stream to Facebook. I'll be back, though. I will be back. All right. Dre, Geoff, Ajay, I appreciate you. Jerrell, get better, big fella.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Until next time, fam.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
What?
Dope Soul.
What?
Your soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
All right.